up in Michigan and everything, correct?
You mean where the FBI basically put up a bunch of, they joined some militias essentially, and they ginned up a plot to kidnap the governor?
Right, it was 12 out of 26 agents were informants or leaders in feds or whatever.
Oh, yeah, and didn't one of the FBI agents actually end up getting charged criminally for beating his wife?
Definitely, yeah. The main plot to take away from this, though, is the guy running that op in Michigan for the feds got promoted immediately after that, and where do you think he went?
Where?
Yeah, I don't know where.
D.C.
Oh, okay.
So as soon as they ran the Whitmer, and they could in the media they could call it a success or whatever. So he signs on with Michigan, he goes to D.C. and then they just go into full mode of putting this thing together for the Jan 6 ridiculousness.
Yeah,
it's revolver.news. It'll take you an hour to really go through it, but you meet these different people in there because there was so much footage of the day. People have amassed so much footage over the last year that they can find these people now. So it's Ray Epps. You can Google Meet Ray Epps. I'm sorry, don't Google, just search it. So Meet Ray Epps is the story, and then you've got these other guys who are obviously military. The guy that gets up on the scaffolding was running the whole show. For over an hour, he's the one saying, move forward, and all this. So this thing was orchestrated.
Are you saying that most of the people who were there were actually feds?
There's like I said, 3,000 to 5,000 there all day, and there's a lot of loose affiliates. So a lot of these people had been in the message boards and all these things, and just being fed informants. You make your 1,000 or whatever, and then you tell what you know on that, and then it all culminates in this Jan 6 deal. And a lot of people didn't know, but they were Lee Harvey Oswald's around there. I mean, they were the patsies, just thinking they were going to run some special op to do something, and a lot of them, their op would have just been removing barricades and breaking a few windows and whatnot, but they all had their different things that they were doing. This thing was
and of course, cui bono, who benefits? The state benefits from this. They get to gin all this up as though it's some sort of big, scary event. And
they're definitely the group of people that care the most about what happened on January 6th is the government itself.
Yeah, and they're going to use it
the one that started this. They did this against themselves. Like I say, when Trump was down there speaking, these guys were the one. I mean, it only starts with 6 to 10 guys taking out barricades and pushing over some things and things like that. And 60-year-old Ray Epps, he's too old to do that stuff. So he had his little 25, 30-year-old guys that he was whispering the ears of and telling them what to do. And a lot of these guys had earpieces in too, so they were getting orders. This thing was run from lots of different sides, lots of different angles. Nobody really kind of knew each other, but it's very interesting to look back because it's all it's not like 9/11 or whatever where you have to go on different people's footage. These are people on the ground that they amassed all their footage. This is all in plain sight. This stuff is not hard. It's not hard at all.
Yeah, it's 20 years since 2011, so more people have smartphones to have footage of what was happening.
That's true. Edward, thanks for the call tonight. Thanks for bringing this up. We were definitely going to cover it, and I appreciate your perspective, so thanks for jumping in here. The number is 603-283-6160, and yeah, it's the state that benefits from this. Specifically, the federal government.
People are always saying, 9/11 couldn't have been an inside job. That's a stupid conspiracy theory. Like, the government couldn't pull together the manpower to do such a thing. He's just said that, thousands of people came from across the country to go do this thing, and most of them were basically federally attached, if not actual employees, right? So how hard is it and they were so willing to do it, and that doesn't surprise me at all. It doesn't surprise me at all.
I mean, they're willing to go to other countries to do worse things, so why wouldn't they do it to,
Absolutely, they don't care.
You mean like the CIA?
Well, I'm just talking about
people and
military and feds in general.
Yeah. The FBI does too. The FBI goes abroad,
So they benefit from this because they get to play it up as though it was some big attack against the the government of the United States.
It's just another false flag.
It's like a woman hitting herself just so she can go to the police and say that her boyfriend hit her. That's what the government's doing to themselves.
And this allows them to, make the excuse of increasing budgets for security, right? Like, we need to hire more Capitol Police. I remember shortly after this. When this happened last year, they were talking about, increasing the budget and moving the Capitol Police into like major cities. Like they were talking about Capitol Police need to have an office in Florida and an office in other states where they can then have their agents doing investigations in other states to keep the Capitol safe. Was the idea. As though we don't have enough federal police in every state, they want to just create the Capitol Police as a new national police force.
Yeah, I'm not sure that any federal police are constitutionally allowable, though, are they?
But we have them. They're all over the place.
All over the place.
FBI, Federal Protective Service, and many more.
That list goes on.
Yeah, it sure does. There's more coming up here, and you can join us. The ridiculous quotes coming up.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover springs her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Are you tired of governments around the world killing innocent people? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin is money that cannot be inflated or controlled by any state. By continuing to use their money, you're perpetuating the killing. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available to you now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. It's Bitcoin.com.
A congressman recently revealed that legislation totaling 2,900 pages and involving more than $1 trillion was available to members of Congress for less than 48 hours to study and consider. That's over 60 pages of legislation per hour. Do you think anyone read the entire bill? I'm Jim Babka with DownsizeDC.org. Consider a proposal buried in a 3,200-page, $388 billion bill, which would have empowered committee chairmen or their agents to examine Americans' tax returns. When this horrible provision came to light, no one claimed to know how it got into the bill. One congressman questioned said, "I didn't write it, I didn't approve it, I wasn't even consulted." If your attorney represented you this way, he might be disbarred. But this is how Congress represents you every day. That's why DownsizeDC.org has created the Read the Bills Act. You can force Congress to read their bills before they pass them at DownsizeDC.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here whether you want to comment on the so-called insurrection or whatever you want. The number is 603-283-6160. Coming up, we'll talk about the dead internet, people being banned off of platforms, the latest example of that. Matt's got that story. Of course, open phones as always if you want to join the show. And we definitely have to talk about Kazakhstan because you want to talk about a real insurrection where there's actual real consequences for the government goons. That's happening in Kazakhstan. 3 police officers have been beheaded in Kazakhstan. The capital has been set on fire.
Somebody gets
in
it.
Kazakhstan. So, that's a real insurrection. What happened in the United States was at best an unauthorized tour, and arguably it was authorized because apparently people just, government agents just opened up the doors to the place and beckoned people in. And I'm not saying apparently because that's what someone told me. I saw a video of it last year. I saw a video of it, what was obviously like a side door. Some agent in the Capitol building just opens the thing up and just holds the door open as people stream in.
Yeah, and I remember seeing, this one Capitol cop, a black guy, and he's like, he was running away from the mob, but it almost looked like he was doing it in jest.
Like exaggerated.
It was like, oh, here they come, and he was like running away. It didn't look like he was at all scared.
Yeah, And why should he be? I mean, it was essentially an unarmed group of people who, they didn't even set fire to the building. You're not dealing with a serious insurrection unless somebody at least tries to set fire to the building.
Right. That's what one of my friends says. He was talking early on a forum we're in, and he's probably listening right now. Hey, Josh. But he says insurrections have guns. January 6th was a protest, and we all know how much protests accomplish.
Yeah. Bitcoin.com, by the way, great source for learning about cryptocurrency. You can go there now, click Get Started at the top of the page, and begin your odyssey into the world of cryptocurrency. Start by learning about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash over at Bitcoin.com. Again, click Get Started at the top of the page, or if you're not brand new to crypto, they got lots of useful tools and information over at Bitcoin.com, including their news site over at news.bitcoin.com. It's updated constantly with the latest news from the world of cryptocurrency. That's news.bitcoin.com. All right, so let's take you to the Capitol, I presume, where Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were stationed this morning, giving comments at about 9 in the morning, according to a C-SPAN feed. And I'm just going to let this play here.
Fellow Americans, good morning. Certain dates echo throughout history, including dates that instantly remind all who have lived through them where they were and what they were doing when our democracy came under assault. Dates that occupy not only a place on our calendars, but a place in our collective memory. December 7th, 1941. September 11th, 2001.
Okay. So
wait, you didn't get to where she says January 6th, 2020.
But it's just in case people don't know what happened on December 7th, 1941.
Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor, yeah.
And January 6th, 2021.
Now,
there is no one listening to this who believes that.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't believe that there are really that many people. Like, I have plenty of leftist friends, and nobody ever complains about what happened on January 6th. I think most people are just like, most of my leftist friends are against the government, honestly.
You remember me talking about 5th gen warfare? I've talked about it on the show a lot. 5th gen warfare, I strongly believe that this is a part of it. Even the people on the left don't care. We are being told they do. They are being told they do. A few of them then believe it, but most of them are people on the left have slightly weird political beliefs, but they're not complete idiots.
Plus, I don't know.
Typically.
I just think most of them don't actually like the government. Like, I was kind of nervous to go down to Texas and San Antonio because I didn't want to talk vaccines or anything with my friends because they're all like kind of left leaning. And my friend and I went down there, just all started telling the other people what happened with the raid, and they were just like, "Why are they attacking him?" And my friend just goes, because he was working to promote Bitcoin and it's going to take down the government. And everybody was like, yeah, F the government.
And that's proof to another thing I've always said. I think most people, especially on the quote unquote left, I think they're just politically illiterate and they don't really know what they want. And they're just going along. It's like, why are there so many gay people who are registered Democrat? That makes absolutely no sense. They should be absolutely for freedom. That's an oppressed class if there ever was one. Like that is a spit upon class for centuries.
Well, isn't it because the left typically panders to them?
That's
They talk about their freedoms. They talk about equality.
And nobody panders like the political elite of the left. They have got that down to an absolute science. And I don't even know if it has to do with the pandering. Like, gay people have never been offered money or anything like that.
No, it's just a promise of equality. It's a promise of fair treatment.
And it's not something that can be, that's not a promise that can be really delivered on by government.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, but they got marriage. So, like, that's a thing that they can point to. Oh, see, we let you guys get into a contract with the government too.
Yeah, we let you get into the contract. You know, that should be all that needs to be said right there. I mean,
it's a raw deal for sure, but it's just all they. That's all they got.
It doesn't make any sense.
You guys can go and die for us now in the military.
Yeah. Oh,
See?
yeah. Great.
Equality.
High five. Way to go. Yeah. Equality. You know, it doesn't make any sense though that they've ever been on the left. They should, not that they should have been on the right, but they should have, try to think for themselves politically and say, here's what I really ought to be, and that is for my own personal dignity and my own free will, to exercise my own free will.
Well, maybe that just comes back around to what you were saying before about the people on the left just being confused about what to
do.
And I don't think that's untrue about people on the right. Yeah,
because you hear people on the right saying, you know what we need is a social program to XYZ, and that's somebody on the right saying that.
Yeah,
so
or they don't understand that what they like is a social program, like the police. Like when me and Chris Wade were telling a bunch of pro-police protesters, like, we don't like socialism. They were like, y'all are the socialists. And we were just like, why do you think that? You're the ones who wants us to pay for your protection social program.
And they didn't have anything to say to that, right?
They just didn't understand it. They were just like, I'm paying for your weed for you to sleep on the couch.
Civics really stopped getting taught in public high schools a long time ago. I didn't take civics. I graduated in 93. I didn't take civics in high school. There's no reason I should know anything about politics if I wasn't taught anything about politics.
Well, so a lot of this comes from the fact that people believe that there's only two options for them to choose, and that is Republican or Democrat, because that's what they're they're perceiving that because that's what they're presented with in the government-run school system, where they literally are told these things, right? Like, you are one or the other. Here's a test you can take to determine whether or not you're on the left or on the right. And then, as it turns out, people are way more individual, right? Like, everybody's got different beliefs. Even people on the right are constantly fighting over different things, and then the people on the left don't agree with everything either. But they feel like, well, that's my camp. My mom and dad were in that camp, and so I'm in that camp too. And for better or for worse, we just have to make the camp the best camp it can be. But there's more ridiculous content here from this so-called insurrection, the first year anniversary, I guess. We're coming up here. It's Free Talk Live.
And now, time for something totally different. Intercoin is a project that's working to make crypto mainstream. We use the power of smart contracts to help any community in the world launch their own cryptocurrency. Ever wanted to release your own coin or build your own app to grow your business? Intercoin's team builds apps that have reached 9 million people around the world. And now it's time to help make a real social impact in your local community. Go to intercoin.org and join the movement. That's intercoin.org.
You know, when we first started Intercoin about 3 years ago, we had a big vision to help every community in the world have access to the same tools that large states and federations do, to hold local elections on the blockchain, to have their own local currency, shop local, hire local, and help fight the forces of globalization that have decimated some of these communities.
Go to intercoin.org and join the movement.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
Those who stormed this Capitol, and those who instigated and incited, and those who called on them to do so, held a dagger at the throat of America.
President Joe Biden marking the first anniversary of the January the 6th insurrection on Capitol Hill by Donald Trump's conspiracy theory-believing supporters. He excoriated his predecessor, vowed to defend American democracy, sought to drive a wedge between moderate Republicans and the Trump wing of the party, and urged Americans to wake up and recognize the ongoing threat that exists to the country's constitutional freedoms. FSN's Nick Harper is on Capitol Hill.
President Biden said that his predecessor had created a web of lies, that he valued power over principle, and that his bruised ego mattered more to him than America's democracy. But he also warned that there is that continued threat to American democracy. He said that the lies that drove the anger and madness a year ago have not abated.
From Donald Trump today, furious statements, again falsely claiming that the 2020 election was rigged and that the real insurrection took place on Election Day. He told his supporters, never forget the crime, never give up. In other news, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has apologised after failing to reveal messages about the funding of the refurbishment of his Downing Street residence. The Prime Minister says he didn't remember a WhatsApp conversation with a Conservative Party member of the House of Lords who funded the makeover. The Prime Minister's own ethics advisor says Mr Johnson acted unwisely. Latest figures show just 35% of Americans have received a COVID-19 booster, despite a major effort by public health officials to promote the third shot. The country's battling a record number of cases driven by the Omicron variant. From FSN's Washington bureau, Nina Maria Potts reports.
Nearly 700 children are being hospitalized a day with COVID, some with serious complications. The Pfizer-BioNTech booster has now been recommended for children as young as 12, but overall, Americans are dragging their feet despite a push by the Biden administration to get a third shot. The recommended window between the second and third shot has been reduced to 5 months, not 6. Still, only 35% of Americans have received the booster.
Dozens of anti-government protesters have been killed in Kazakhstan as unrest over rising fuel prices spreads. Russian tanks are heading to the country at the invitation of its president. The film director Peter Bogdanovich has died at the age of 82. He'll be best remembered for Paper Moon with Tatum O'Neill and The Last Picture Show with Sybil Shepherd, both of them black and white classics from the 1970s. He also acted, playing the role of a psychiatrist on The Sopranos. He had a tumultuous personal life and fell from grace in Hollywood in the 1980s. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's Ian, Matt,
and Bonnie.
Of course, you can bring up whatever's on your mind. A lot of people obviously want to talk about the so-called insurrection, and especially the people in the state, the people that are, the priests, the high priests of the Church of the State. They really want you to remember this event in a way that is completely unlike what actually happened. They want you to remember this as though it were tantamount to, according to Kamala Harris, tantamount to Pearl Harbor and 9/11. Events on which, need I remind you, thousands of people were, put to death.
Or jumping out of
windows,
20-story windows.
Yeah.
It just goes to show how little value she puts on
those people.
20,000, it's almost 3,000 deaths to her is equal to scaring some politicians, but not even killing one.
Yeah, some politicians had to huddle down, or they felt so frightened about this unauthorized tour that they truly believed that their lives were in jeopardy, even though not a single one of them was harmed in any way, shape, or form during this particular event. No one was taken hostage. No one was even threatened. No one pointed a weapon at any politicians. Weapons were pointed at the people who were taking this particular unauthorized tour. One lady was shot to death.
Was she a school teacher or something like that?
I don't know. Ashley Babbitt, I think, was her name, but I don't know a whole lot about her background. I'm sure there are a lot of people who've done a lot of research and talking about her today and back then.
She was a very non-frightening person at any rate.
She didn't threaten the cops.
Nope.
She didn't hurt a cop. And the cop basically was trigger happy, the one that I understand. as I understand it, the one that shot her to death. Didn't need to, but he did it. And, he's going to get away with it. They're not going to charge him with anything.
Yeah, but Biden has vowed to charge every single person who was involved in the January 6th insurrection in any way.
Didn't they send that guy with the horns? The dude that whatever, Jacob Chanley or something, or whatever his name was?
Yeah, with the face paint?
Yeah, he went to prison.
He's probably just in like a fancy hotel somewhere, and I'm pretty sure he's fed.
Well, I don't know.
Paid vacation.
I mean,
that's so weird because that's such a weird person to choose to throw the book at because he's such a, every protest has a protest clown. We have Rich Paul. Rich Paul's like our resident protest clown. We
or maybe Frank Stables.
Frank. Oh yeah, totally. A good example. And this guy was nothing more than that. I mean, they're the least frightening people on the planet, and they're the ones that they're going to put in the can for. I mean, the guy showed up with like a fur horned helmet on.
Yeah, he was memorable.
Without a shirt. The cops wearing bulletproof vests.
Right.
This guy's not wearing a shirt.
Yeah, I don't know if I buy the idea that he is not sitting in a prison cell right now. I think there are ways to independently verify those sorts of things, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't on the federal payroll. It just might mean he's super deep cover. But regardless, I don't want to get into those sort of conspiracy theories about.
Could you imagine if somebody put Vermin Supreme in prison for going into the? He's basically a Vermin.
He's
Supreme.
A young Vermin Supreme.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about what people are actually saying, and so I've got another clip here. So we started with Kamala Harris, where she compares this to 9/11 and Pearl Harbor, violent events where people horribly and horrifically died
for no reason.
Well, for the glorification of the state. In the case of Pearl Harbor, they did sacrifice those people. If you reviewed the McCollum memo from prior to Pearl Harbor, it is all about how the U.S. federal government wanted to manipulate the Japanese, not ignore them, but to manipulate them into starting a war.
Yeah, plus the boat captains knew that the attack was coming, so they moved all the boats out of the bay, out of the harbor, and word came in from Washington, D.C. to move the boats back into the harbor right before the attack. Yeah. So it was intentional.
Yeah, and of course there's a zillion theories about 9/11 and what really went on there, but with the McCollum memo, we know what happened with Pearl Harbor. There's no question about it. If you haven't checked that thing out, take a little bit of time, look it over. It's crystal clear that they planned to have their, to essentially sacrifice those people on the altar of creating an excuse to go to war, because they knew the American people wouldn't buy the claim that, we should just go fight the Japanese. No, they needed the Japanese to make it look like they were making the first move, when in point of fact they weren't. But here's a clip from Ann Kuster. Now, that's not one of those nationally recognized names, but it came across my feed today because I saw somebody from the Keene Sentinel had posted this, and that's the local newspaper here. This is the U.S. House of Representatives member from New Hampshire, or one of them, I guess. And this is what she had to say.
1,000 acts of courage saved my life and our democracy 1 year ago today in the January 6th attack on our Capitol. I am here today as both a survivor and a witness to the brutal and violent attack that threatened my life and continues to threaten the future.
Has this woman ever seen brutality?
I was going to say brutal.
Never. I don't think she's even ever been thrown down on a playground.
Nobody was touched.
No. Has she ever seen a video of what her troops have done over in the Middle East? Has she ever seen brutal? Has she ever seen any of the torture photos from Iraq back during the Bush administration? I mean, this lady has no idea what brutality is.
Or any of the things the cops did that sparked all the riots in 2020. And the main thing that they care about is people
Either
walked into their building.
She has seen it, and she just thrives on it and loves it, and she's a nutcase.
Well, she's definitely nuts.
Of our democracy.
I was just going to say, maybe they're just using the words to describe how they killed that lady, Ashley Babbitt, but,
I doubt that.
No, they're, wiping it over the whole situation, so that way they're technically not lying.
America does not yet know just how close we, the members here in this room today, our nation and our democracy, came to our demise that terrifying day.
Damn it! I mean, I'm not wishing harm on these people, but she's talking about democracy.
Yeah, democracy.
Coming to an end. Really? Democracy was about to be destroyed on January 6th, 2021? It was that, like a threads-bare, level closeness?
Just dangling by a thread.
And I wasn't even paying attention to what was going on because it was so dumb.
So basically what she's saying is if it was really a real insurrection, if people actually burned the Capitol building down, that would have been the end of the federal government? Is that all it really takes?
But it doesn't. The thing is, it doesn't matter if anybody believes this because it's patently idiotic. Like, literally, this is unbelievable. Anybody who's looking at it, nobody thinks that lady's life was ever under any kind of threat, right? She doesn't think it either. This is all an act. They know it's an act. They're going to pump it out to the public as though it's real, but
that's all they have to do.
Keep saying it. They're going to keep saying
it.
That's
the rules of propaganda. You just keep telling the same lie over and over again.
Propaganda.
And that's the thing. I mean, how many people
look how many
attention?
of them are involved with it? Like, they're all in on it. They're all in on the propaganda.
The media's in on it. In fact,
and if any of them were being honest, at least one would have said, okay, what happened was bad. You guys shouldn't do that, but we weren't in danger. We weren't about to die. But none of the politicians that were there said anything like that. Nope.
And the mainstream media, here's what's under the Twitter, what's happening, U.S. National News, quote, there is no credible evidence that the federal government was involved in planning the January 6th insurrection. Fact checkers report.
Oh, thank God.
Basically, anything with fact checkers in it, you might as well just consider government propaganda.
Immediately.
It always backs the government. It always, explains away anything that the state does. And so the media is completely on board with this particular narrative. It doesn't matter that there's absolutely no video footage to corroborate what these people are talking about. And there's cameras all over the Capitol. So, like, if there was some sort of brutal act going on, besides the murder of the protester, if there was actually a brutal act that transpired against these Congress people, they'd have video of it, and they'd be putting it everywhere. But they don't have that. So all they can do is just speechify about it and just reiterate what this, to them, was. And it's the old, what is it, Herman Goebbels, I guess, or Goebbels? I don't know how you pronounce it.
Goebbels?
Yeah, from Nazi Germany.
Yeah, you repeat a lie often enough, it becomes
the truth. And that's what they're doing here. And they're going to bring this back every single year on January 6th and make this some new memorial commemorative occasion. And if you want to share your thoughts, you're certainly welcome to join us. 603-283-6160. That is until they actually go away. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. Number 603-283-6160. And if you found some ridiculous quotes from these politicians or the media people about January 6th, you want to share them with us, feel free to call in. Like I said, I didn't dig deep. It wouldn't have been hard to find more of these things. I mean, I just, saw one from Kamala Harris. Okay, she's comparing this to, 9/11 in Pearl Harbor.
The comet that wiped out the dinosaurs.
If only Washington, D.C. would be hit by a comet.
If everybody in the Capitol for some reason died, like getting hit by a comet, the puppet masters would just replace them immediately. Democracy wouldn't end.
No, I mean, you'd take a lot of really bad people out in one fell swoop.
I think I heard. I think I understood once. I could be wrong here. That Washington D.C. is very, very near sea level, even though it's inland, and that if one good earthquake, off the coast of Italy or whatever, could send a wave that would wash Washington D.C. right under the water.
Well, the climate freaks are all aflutter about how, oh my God, if the sea level rises, this is what D.C. will look like, and they've made maps where the water comes up. And I'm like, all right,
so that's when I set a tire on fire in the yard, and
Fine. Well, actually, why doesn't it rise a little higher? Because some of the monuments are real high up, right?
Yeah,
they're on mounds.
We need to get another 15 feet out of this people. We need to
smoke some more cigarettes or
water your lawn with motor oil or
cow
something.
Farts.
Cow farts. So let's go to your phone calls here. Your calls are welcome at 603-283-6160. Whether you want to comment on the so-called insurrection, and we'll get to a real insurrection. What's happening in Kazakhstan? That's on the way here, but Tom is in New Hampshire. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, Tom.
And remember, the guy is going on and on about the big lies being spread by a former president and his supporters. The big lies. And all through the speech, he's repeating one big lie about this threat to our democracy when the Founding Fathers did not establish a democracy. They established a federal republic, and it's a...
Does it really matter, though? I mean, this is a point that we used to make on the air on Free Talk. Like in the early days of Free Talk Live, we made that point. Well, it's not a democracy, it's a republic.
Constitutional republic.
What does it really matter? I mean, in a republic, people elect these goons.
Well, I think it does matter only because that's the term that they want people to focus on because it's something most people think, oh yeah, that's a kind of good idea, so they can now protect the government. They're like, I like the word democracy. They don't like the word republic because Republican. We like democracy and we want to protect the government.
Yeah. And see, the problem is that people who are wise and educated on these points are being turned off by the speech because they know the difference. And I think that libertarians not only should be allowed in the campaign debates and the presidential debates, they should get more time so that they can rebut lies like that one. And it takes longer to say what the United States really is, so they should be free to do that. Now, this next point I want to bring up, though, is that for years, most members of Congress have been voting to fund the Drug Enforcement Administration, and now they know what it's like when their place gets raided. And during the speech, Joe Biden said, the Bible tells us we shall know the truth, and the truth shall set us free. And he's referring to the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verse 32. And for those who don't know it, when you look at the flag of the Dominican Republic, it has in the center of it an open Bible, which, according to Article 32 of the Dominican Republic Constitution, is open to that verse, John chapter 8, verse 32. That is, it specifies. I mean, you would never be able to see it in the fine print of it, but that is what the national Constitution says that Bible is open to, is John 8:32.
And what is that?
The Bible that is featured in.
I know, but what's the verse in reference to?
It's the truth shall you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Detail. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a point that a lot of people from the Dominican Republic don't even know that the Bible in the center of their country's flag is open to that verse, John 8:32.
Okay, I'm not sure why that's relevant.
Well, what is relevant, though, is that Congresswoman Lauren Boebert was getting so much criticism for bringing a gun with her into congressional sessions. She doesn't need a gun to protect herself in there. Doesn't she know they have security?
I bet they haven't brought that conversation back up.
No. Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Well, I just want to comment on his first point about Donald Trump being quoted saying that, not Donald Trump, Biden being quoted saying this morning that last year on this date that Trump was spreading a web of lies about the election being stolen from him. I think that the worst point to point out in that is just the fact that the president who is declared to have won is just telling the people any idea that you have that there was voter fraud is lies. Definitively, don't have to show you any proof. It was lies.
Says the winner.
Says the winner. That's just that's a direct.
It's like Lyndon Johnson talking about how it certainly was not a government plot to
that JFK died.
Yeah.
Well, that's like a perfect textbook explanation of the people that run your government are doing things that you think only other people's governments are doing.
Sure. Yeah. Ultimately, the whole election controversy is completely meaningless. Because it's just another distraction. Okay, you guys get all upset because somebody, quote unquote, stole the election. Well, even if Trump had won the election, nothing different would have really happened.
No.
Trump would have been pushing the vaccines. They would have rolled out the third vaccine with the booster, and the whole thing would have gone down. Now, whether or not the liberals would have stayed anti-vax in that situation is an interesting question, because you can go back to 2020 and find quotes from leftists who were all about, I'm not taking no Trump vaccine. And then, of course, as soon as the label got changed to Biden on the vaccine,
I can't wait
then it's
to take
like, I'm rolling up my sleeve. Give me 5 of them. And so, maybe they wouldn't have. It would have been interesting to see how that version of reality would have played out. But ultimately, you would still see, I think, basically the same crap that's going on.
I agree, but I think that every presidential election has been selected by the feds. So it's just interesting that, when people are actually like, hey, we think something went wrong there. Because I don't believe that Joe Biden won the election. I drove all over the country in 2020. I drove from Las Vegas to San Antonio, and I drove from San Antonio to Maine, and I just don't believe that Joe Biden had more supporters than Donald Trump.
Are you one of the people who believe that Trump was somehow not chosen to win? Because if you believe that there's somebody
No,
who's
I think
a
he
puppet
was
master,
chosen to win in 2016.
Okay.
Because I think he's always they
Because there's
choose
some
all
people
the
that
elections.
believe that somehow the puppet masters didn't choose Trump and that he was somehow this sort of outsider that came in.
I think he's obviously like meant to look like a savior to some people, and he's not the savior that they want. They're all the same. But I'm just saying.
Wouldn't you agree that Trump was made to look that way? He's made to look as though he's an outsider in order to bring people back into the fold who had been so pushed away by politics as usual. Like, oh, look, one of you won. Look, this guy, he's not a real politician. He's never run for office before. Well, he had, but he's never been in office before. He's not a real politician. He's a businessman. He actually won this election.
He can't be bought.
He's going to drain the swamp. He can't be bought. Look at what he's going to do. And then he does the same old crap.
Yep, I totally agree with that.
But the memes were so good.
And he was entertaining. I will hand it to him. He still hasn't launched his new Trump Social website, or they're going to call it Truth Social. So I am looking forward to him getting back on to internets, because he's been completely absent for the last year, ever since Twitter banned him and Facebook banned him from their platforms.
They've been doing a lot of that lately.
Sure. Yeah, they have. In fact, I know you want to talk about Robert Malone, I believe was his
Robert
name.
Malone,
He's
Dr.
like
Robert
a
Malone.
high-level doctoring kind of person who's actually worked for the government and the CDC.
He's actually one of the people who helped invent the mRNA technology.
He did a lengthy interview with Joe Rogan, and that got taken down from YouTube. So I know you wanted to discuss that. We can get into that on the way here. And, of course, you're welcome to share your thoughts with us. The number is 603-283-6160. Bonnie wants to talk about what is called dead internet theory. It's a very interesting theory.
Totally.
We can get into that on the way as well. And also a real insurrection. You want to talk about a real insurrection? Let's go over and look at Kazakhstan, where they literally set their capital on fire. They have killed apparently now 13 police.
Wow.
According to a story from The Sun. And there's a lot to say about this. All of it triggered by a doubling of gas prices. And I can't see Americans doing anything like that. I mean, I don't know.
There'd just be memes, and people would be like, I need some more stimulus to pay for this double gas price.
603-283-6160. They sure would. And you can share your thoughts with us here. You can take control of the airwaves on Free Talk Live, Hour 2, coming up. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
Those who stormed this Capitol, and those who instigated and incited, and those who called on them to do so, held a dagger at the throat of America.
President Joe Biden marking the first anniversary of the January the 6th insurrection on Capitol Hill by Donald Trump's conspiracy theory-believing supporters. He excoriated his predecessor, vowed to defend American democracy, sought to drive a wedge between moderate Republicans and the Trump wing of the party, and urged Americans to wake up and recognize the ongoing threat that exists to the country's constitutional freedoms. FSN's Nick Harper is on Capitol Hill.
President Biden said that his predecessor had created a web of lies, that he valued power over principle, and that his bruised ego mattered more to him than America's democracy. He said that the lies that drove the anger and madness a year ago have not abated.
From Donald Trump today, furious statements, again falsely claiming that the 2020 election was rigged and that the real insurrection took place on Election Day. He told his supporters, never forget the crime, never give up. In other news, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has apologised after failing to reveal messages about the funding of the refurbishment of his Downing Street residence. The Prime Minister says he didn't remember a WhatsApp conversation with a Conservative Party member of the House of Lords who funded the makeover. The Prime Minister's own ethics advisor says Mr Johnson acted unwisely. Latest figures show just 35% of Americans have received a COVID-19 booster, despite a major effort by public health officials to promote the third shot. The country's battling a record number of cases driven by the Omicron variant. From FSN's Washington bureau, Nina Maria Potts reports.
Nearly 700 children are being hospitalized a day with COVID, some with serious complications. The Pfizer-BioNTech booster has now been recommended for children as young as 12, but overall, Americans are dragging their feet despite a push by the Biden administration to get a third shot. The recommended window between the second and third shot has been reduced to 5 months, not 6. Still, only 35% of Americans have received the booster.
Dozens of anti-government protesters have been killed in Kazakhstan as unrest over rising fuel prices spreads. Russian tanks are heading to the country at the invitation of its president. The film director Peter Bogdanovich has died at the age of 82. He'll be best remembered for Paper Moon with Tatum O'Neal and The Last Picture Show with Sybil Shepherd, both of them black and white classics from the 1970s. He also acted, playing the role of a psychiatrist on The Sopranos. He had a tumultuous personal life and fell from grace in Hollywood in the 1980s. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking in more detail today at the protests in Kazakhstan. It is a vast country stretching from the Caspian Sea in the west all the way to its border with China and Russia in the Altai Mountains. Dominated for decades by former President Nursultan Nazarbayev, who governed Kazakhstan when it was a Soviet republic and then recreated himself as the USSR collapsed, it's now ruled by his former Prime Minister, Kasim Tokayev. FSN's Moscow correspondent Julia Chapman told us more.
Protests are a relatively rare occurrence in Kazakhstan, but not unheard of. Demonstrators are met with a fairly heavy hand by Kazakh authorities, so it takes a lot for people to take to the streets. Kazakhstan is the richest Central Asian nation, but many ordinary Kazakhs don't feel the benefit of those revenues. And these protests are really a huge test for President Tokayev, who came to power in 2019, because many Kazakhs only ever knew Nursultan Nazarbayev as their leader, following 30 years of his rule. But his role in Kazakhstan is now very uncertain. A video circulating on social media appeared to show protesters trying to pull down a statue of Nazarbayev. The tide does appear to be turning against the old guard.
Kazakhstan has been an oasis of relative stability in Central Asia, attracting foreign investors. Stability, though, is now at risk as protests against rising fuel prices express broader public frustrations. The main news again, President Biden, marking the first anniversary of the January 6th insurrection on Capitol Hill, vowed to defend American democracy and launched a furious assault on the rioters and former President Donald Trump. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has apologised after failing to reveal messages about the funding of the refurbishment of his Downing Street residence. And Peter Bogdanovich, who directed the films Paper Moon and The Last Picture Show, has died at the age of 82. There's more from us on Twitter @FeatureStory. And that is the latest Feature Story news. Simon Marks reporting.
Months after identifying the elusive Higgs boson particle, scientists at CERN in Geneva, Switzerland have announced that they've completely run out of things to do with their Large Hadron Collider.
We've tried some time travel stuff, but it doesn't really work. Black holes, but we already know like a ton about those. Last week we threw a bird in there. Honestly, we thought it would take way longer to find the Higgs boson.
Director General of CERN, Rolf Dieter Hauer, told reporters that while they, quote, might be able to figure out some more about quarks or something, for the most part, his team has spent much of the past year throwing pennies into the machine and turning it on to see if the pennies come out smushed.
We might just start building a larger hadron collider. Yeah, maybe a bigger collider for smaller hadrons or something. I don't know.
CERN has announced on their website that if anyone out there has any fun ideas for experiments, you can email them to ideas@largehadroncollider.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. It is Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the second hour here, and phones are open as always. The number, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. You can bring up whatever you want to talk about, and we've been talking about the so-called insurrection. Apparently tonight on Capitol, or the U.S. Capitol, they're having a candlelight vigil. They brought out the priests like Kamala Harris and these other government goons.
Maybe Joe Biden will come out with a city ordinance saying that nobody can picket in front of his house.
Well, they're definitely not allowing the average people in this event, like you can tell, because the photo shows only about maybe 5 or 6 dozen people that are participating. So it's obviously the elite class. It's the people who are in the, the government church. And you and I went to one of their buildings today, Bonnie. We were at the federal church federal court church in New Hampshire, in Concord. You were dropping off some paperwork there, and I asked you, doesn't it just look like a creepy church? Because you were looking up at this.
Yeah, it was just so big,
ridiculously tall, circular kind of. I don't know how to even describe it. Yeah, this
awning.
The window,
but it's metal and stone.
Yeah, it's not like stained glass and beautiful. It's this sort of ugly, institutional, but yet obviously kind of religious flavor to it. And so now they're holding a religious candlelight vigil for the poor state that apparently was about to crumble under the weight of the unauthorized protesters on January 6th, which they want us to believe was some sort of in the words of one representative in the United States House, quote, brutal. That she was in fear for her life from the brutal demonstration that...
she's a survivor. Yeah.
She's a survivor.
Right. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. So we're going to go to your phone calls and thoughts here. Alu Axelman is on the line calling us from the Liberty Block over at libertyblock.com. Hey, Alu.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, what's on your mind?
Have you guys heard about House Bill 1189?
I have not. I mean, not by number, at least. What does it do?
Well, I've been trying to ask state reps for years if they would propose a simple bill, pretty much the same idea as an article I wrote about in 2018. I started writing about the concept of voluntarily funding the government, making government gangs raise money voluntarily without coercion, like us humans have to raise money. We can't put a gun to people's face. We have to convince them to donate to us by giving them value in exchange.
Yeah.
Right? I don't force people to buy my books. I ask them if they want to buy them, and if they do, they do. If they don't, I don't put the gun to their head. They can buy my books or not.
Yeah, that would be an amazing change. I mean, I've been saying that for years here as well. Like let's make the property tax a voluntary bill, and if you like the police department, you can send them a check. Or if you appreciate the road crew, then send them some money, or at least have some boxes that you can check on the tax bill saying, "Here's what I want my money to go towards," or something like that.
I asked a lot of reps, and I must have asked Julius Sodi, a great Liberty rep from Wyndham. I must have asked him a while ago because a few months ago at a meeting he told me that he is looking to propose a bill, and he did propose House Bill 1189. And Mike Yakulovich, who's one of my state reps, and Mark Warden, who I'm sure you know, signed on as co-sponsors. So now it has 3 sponsors, and I think it could pass. It's a very simple bill. Julius Sodi was thinking of like a GoFundMe type thing, but I was thinking of it as more of an advertising type thing because GoFundMe, it kind of implies that people would want to give money to the government, and most people are not very inclined to give more money to, violent criminals, government gangs. But what I was thinking, and he did put it in the bill, I just checked a few weeks ago before I wrote the article about this bill, he did say that he wrote separate parts of the bill for the state and the separate part for the municipalities like towns and cities. So for the state, for both different types of government, it says the same thing. It says the governing body may approve suitable recognition of donations as they see fit. So pretty much that part of the bill will do is make it so that it's advertising, right? So people, the state government, so for instance, Dictator Sununu for the state level, or your town administrator or town or city mayor on the city level will negotiate with businesses, and the business will only donate $1 million if they get a plaque or a billboard or their big logo on the side of all of the fire department trucks. Make sense? So, for instance, I would do this. LibertyBlock.com would be happy to at least do a few $100 to put a big, logo, beautiful purple and gold logo, LibertyBlock.com on the side of all of my town's fire department vehicles. I would do that for a few $100 a month. And if that happens, that's fine. If someone outbids me, like Amazon has a place in Hooksett now as well, a delivery center. So if they outbid me, that's fine. It'll be more. And the bidding, obviously, there will be price discovery and everything will have a value. So, for instance, our town has a few hundred vehicles, I think, dozens, maybe a few hundred vehicles, a few buildings that we own, the town, the schools. Well, the outside of every building is a billboard, right? It's seen by people, meaning it's a billboard. All of the police cars that are driving around all day, the fire department trucks, all of our municipal trucks for public works, they're all rolling billboards. That's what we say in the ambulance industry. You're a rolling billboard, everyone sees you. So I'm sure they can raise $18 million, which is our town budget. And the state for $3 billion or $6 billion, or the whole state budget of $6 billion, half comes from D.C. Once we leave D.C., even raising $6 billion is very easy. The state owns, thousands of buildings and vehicles? They're all billboards. If I gave you thousands of billboards, couldn't you raise $6 billion a year? Very easily, right? So this at least starts getting that process going. It's probably legal now, but this bill clarifies and encourages the state and municipalities to do this. So it's not a very radical bill, I don't think. It's got 3 Republican sponsors. They're in the majority. It's not very radical. It just doesn't change anything, but it allows and clarifies and encourages state and city governments to be able to accept more money from donations and recognize the donors. So it's not very radical. So hopefully it can pass. That being said, if it does pass, we could also say it's the first step to phasing out taxation, mandatory taxation, right? So in a sense, it's radical, but it's not a very radical bill. So I'm confident it can pass, and I'm hoping it does.
Now, it's hard, I'm not an expert at reading these bills, but I do, I did pull up the text of this thing here, HB 1189, here on the state, or actually the GenCourtMobile.com site. And it says here that the governing body of a municipality may establish, so they don't have to, a voluntary donation trust fund for which they may accept and credit voluntary donations of money to be used to A, reduce the amounts raised through property taxation. I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
B, fund new or existing municipal road, bridge, or building construction projects. C, maintain parks. Or D, make other unauthorized expenditures, including election audit costs. Does that mean that any voluntary donations they receive have to reduce the amounts raised through property taxation, or that's just one of 4 different options?
That part does seem unclear, if I'm understanding you correctly. But what I'm hoping will happen is, for instance, on the state level, people will, when they give a donation, they can say, this is to be used for that purpose. For instance, I'm donating, $100 per month to the state of New Hampshire in exchange, and it'll be a contract. In exchange, I want you to put the Liberty Block logo 10 feet by 5 feet wide on the state house for 1 month. And hopefully it'll be a contract so they can't take the money and use it to send police to my friend's house to punish them for crypto crimes.
Yeah. I do see what you're saying, though. Regardless, it is a step in the right direction. Although I don't know how many people want to give extra money to the state government in this.
But even if they aren't receiving any money at that time, people could still point to it as a way to say, "Why do you need to steal money from us? You have this other mechanism."
Yeah.
Exactly, and they already do this, right? So I've written articles about this. I'm working on a whole book called Taxation is Theft. I'm going to publish hopefully in a few months. I've talked about this for years. State governments, the city governments already do this. We have Sponsor a Highway, Adopt a Highway, 82 liquor stores run by the state government. They're raising billions of revenue. The lottery system raises, I believe, hundreds of millions or billions of revenue. So the state governments already, they understand, and that's what kills me. The state government understands they can raise money, like you and me, voluntarily without using force. but they still love using force.
Yeah, it's so much easier if you can just threaten to steal people's land and their property from them. But it is
unprecedented. They're already doing it.
No, that's true. I mean, here in Keene, one of the nicer parks is called Ashwalet Park, and there's a ton of sponsorships in that park. There's a ton of like every brick that's laid along the paths all has,
somebody's name.
Yes, brought to you by so-and-so family.
The bench has its own plaque.
Every bench has a plaque. The bridge was donated by a private company. So, and I believe there's even a volunteer crew that goes around and, plants things in the springtime. And so it's the reason why it's a nice park is because it's a community, really, truly a community park. And the town government really has very little to do with it. Alu, can you hang on and talk about what's going on with the independence bill? I know you're Johnny on the spot on that issue. You got time?
Yes, sir.
All right, stand by here. Alu Axelman here with us. He is the publisher over at LibertyBlock.com and also the president of the Foundation for New Hampshire Independence. And you want to talk about an exciting bill. There's one that's been filed that is historic, and we'll talk about that on the way. This is Free Talk Live for Independence.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it! You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Are you about to meet the media? If you're about to be interviewed, do their homework for them. Know this about the person who will interview you. He or she is busy, so expect minimal, if any, preparation. He or she doesn't know as much about your topic as you do. He or she isn't as concerned as you are about getting your message out, so you need to take responsibility. Provide a biography and fact sheet, photographs, or other materials that tell your story. Reporters won't be put off if you supply frequently asked questions. Remember, Public Speaking 101, at the end of the speech, what's the one thing you want them to remember? You can download the document I supply to reporters who interview me and squirm through a video that demonstrates how not to conduct your media interview at www.survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. You can bring up what you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And we are raising funds, by the way, for Give Directly. It's the first nonprofit that allows you to give money directly to people living in extreme poverty. Right now, we're raising funds for families in Bomet and Kilifi counties in Kenya who are in dire need of assistance. Over the last decade, the folks over at Give Directly have delivered $400 million, or a little more than that, I guess, to more than 1 million people. And research shows that giving cash to people living in poverty can help drive a range of important positive changes in their lives, like employment, nutrition, health, and education. Plus, that cash allows individuals to invest in what they need instead of relying on aid organizations and donors thousands of miles away to choose for them. So if that's what you prefer, we agree, and we are matching your donations up to a total of $30,000. So if you want to help out, head over to give.freetalklive.com, and you can send some funds, some much-needed assistance there. And they do accept cryptocurrency donations, by the way. That's give.freetalklive.com. It's Ian, Matt, and Bonnie in the studio tonight, and I dare say, I think I speak for the whole studio when I think we all support the idea of New Hampshire independence. Am I right about that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, and so amazingly, there has been a bill filed by some state representatives. In fact, I believe 7 state representatives filed Bill CACR 32, as it is called. No, it's not an HB because it's not a true House bill, because this is actually a proposed constitutional amendment here in New Hampshire, which the process for that is that 3/5 or 60% of the state House and state Senate have to vote for this in order for it to be placed on the ballot in 2022, and then 2/3 of the voters would then have to vote for it in order for it to pass. And in this particular case, it would result in the immediate declaration of independence, a peaceful independence for New Hampshire, leaving the United States. And it wouldn't be we're just thinking about it. It'd be we're saying goodbye. See ya. It's over. And Alu, you've been...
it's not us, it's you.
Yeah, you've been keeping an eye on this pretty close over there at libertyblock.com, and you were the first person to actually catch wind of the hearing date that is going to be for this bill, because every bill gets a hearing, a public hearing in New Hampshire, which is one of the reasons why this is such a historic occasion. You know, and Arya suggested that maybe something like this might have happened back in Civil War times, but since then, there has not been something like this. In our lifetimes, there's never been the opportunity for the people to actually speak on the record publicly in favor or against secession, peaceful independence. And I'm just wondering, what have you been hearing since this hearing date came out, Alu? Are you getting in touch with people? Have there been a lot of people who've committed to attending this? Are carpools being formed, plans being made? What's the latest?
Well, I got the email yesterday afternoon or something from Matt Santanastaso, one of the sponsors from the Keene area by you. Mm-hmm. And I was busy. I was actually flying back from Key West. I was down in Paradise for 2 days. Thank God, beating the cold. But I was about to fly back. So I forwarded it to you and said, please get it out. I'm glad you guys mentioned it last night already. So I just got back and I'm exhausted today. So I've spoken to a few friends, and the few I spoke to said they're definitely going to go to the hearing. It is January 20th, Thursday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. Of course, that's subject to change a little bit depending on all the bills that committee is going to have that day, because they have a bill scheduled for every hour or two, and it's hard to know how many people show up and how long it takes for each hearing. But at 3:30, it could be a little earlier. More likely it will be later, but I would get there at 3:30 or as early as you can to get parking. I'll be there super early. And the sessions can go as late as the committee chairman and the committee want it to. And when I spoke to Al Baldassaro, the committee chairman, a few weeks ago, he said he doesn't like, or he never has, scheduled a second day no matter how many people show up to testify. And I said,
wow.
well, Al, I don't know if you understand. We may have 1,000 people who want to speak for a few minutes, meaning you may, have 50 hours of speaking testimony. So you may have to schedule a second day. And he said, nope, not this cowboy. I'm going to get my work done in my day. I'm not going to schedule it again.
All right. Well, Bonnie was suggesting to me last night off the air that we should record Free Talk Live for that day, and I was just blowing her off, saying, "Oh, well, we don't need to do that because we'll be back. They'll end the hearing at 5 o'clock, and we'll be back in time."
I don't want to miss any of it.
But yeah, now you're making me think twice. Like maybe we should record the show for that day, and then just in case this thing goes until midnight or
we
whatever.
won't do it for Christmas or Thanksgiving, but we'll do it for
New
Hampshire Independence Day.
It's hard to say. I mean, again, I'm not the most experienced with this. I'm sure you have friends who know a little bit more about how hearings go. I've been to a few, and
I've been
some
to a
go
ton.
very long. But yeah, so like some go long, but most of the time at 5 or 7 or 8, 10 p.m. they'll close it down for the day, right?
Most of the time, it's no later than 5. I mean, that's usually about because the reps have been there since 9 or 8 or 9 in the morning. Usually, most of the hearings start in the morning. So to have a 3:30 in the afternoon hearing, first off, is very unusual. It's going to allow more people to attend because there's going to be a lot of people who will, libertarians, they don't like to get out of bed before noon, and all those people have no excuse now. They have to show up. Yep. So they can totally be there. And if he's saying he's committed to, going into the night with this could be a very interesting and exhausting
but you're right,
hearing.
Because I mean, realistically, the committee hearings, like you said, they're slated to have 5 or 6 bills that day, starting at probably around 9 a.m. There's no way he's going to force the rest of the committee members to stay after 5, 6,
well,
7,
that's
8
the thing.
PM.
He can't force them, and that's one of the things about if he does continue the hearing. That's actually a bad thing because these guys are going to drop out. They're going to say, "Oh, I got to be home to make dinner for the kids," and then they're gonna jet. But if this goes into another day on a different week, if they continue the hearing to a second week or whatever, then they might move it to a 9 a.m. start and just block off the whole day for it or something like that, and that might be
Yeah, once they realize there are like a few hundred of us, maybe they'll start 9 a.m. and expect it to be the whole day for this hearing. Because again, it all depends who shows up. I'm hoping a few hundred of us or a few thousand of us show up. If the people who care about independence and want to make their voice heard and want to see it get on the ballot all show up, because I know there are thousands of them in New Hampshire. If they all show up, then it will blow it up to Representatives Hall, hopefully. And now I did ask him where it'll be, because I know the State House, even though Republicans have control and they're not big on corona fascism, still apparently today there was a session and it was not in the State House, right? So I guess they're still afraid.
Yeah, they still, after 2 years, they still haven't brought back the full-on House hearings into the actual State House. They're having it in like football stadiums or whatever. Do you know where they were this time?
I don't know. It was, I think, somewhere in Manchester, some other big venue. They were kind of hopping all around the state. But I thought it was like Republicans in control and not corona fascists, but who knows?
Well, that's the thing. The Republicans are
Al.
split, right? Like some of the Republicans are COVID cowards and some of them are, free of masks and, on the liberty side.
Yeah,
so
I assume the majority of them were pro-science and weren't corona fascists. But Al did say it'll be in the Legislative Office Building, the hearing.
Wait, so we don't know exactly where?
He controls that hearing. That's why I asked him. I didn't know if it would be in Manchester or Dover. So I asked him, and he said it'll be at LOB.
Yeah, no, the hearings are happening at the Legislative Office Building, at least as far as I know, and that's what some of the Democrats are upset about. They want to have all remote hearings and blah blah blah. But so to at least the Republicans' credit, they have held their ground on the hearings at least. Like, look, the people have a right to come out and be seen and be and speak to a room, not just connect on Zoom. And it's just totally.
I say if you won't come out or if you leave early before people are done speaking, then you should lose your seat. You shouldn't get a vote.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Hey, Alu, thanks for the continuing, updates on this, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. And thanks for the time tonight, man.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Alu Axelman from the Liberty Block. We continue with 603-283-6160. Whether you want to talk about independence, because it's on a lot of people's minds out there. People are talking about divorcing D.C., and it's time. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odyssey, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off. Now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odyssey started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odyssey. You can watch live or anytime on our Odyssey channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odyssey today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The United States House of Representatives has held a moment of silence to mark the anniversary of the attack on the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi says a year on, U.S. democracy is still under threat. FSN's U.S. correspondent Sarah Walton reports.
At midday on Thursday, House representatives held a moment of silence in the same spot that 12 months ago they'd hidden behind chairs and under desks as rioters attempted to break into the chamber. But just 2 members of the Republican Party were present to take part in the memorial, and Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the country remains hugely divided, alluding to the introduction of controversial new voting rights legislation in some parts of the country.
Since the January 6th insurrection, there have been continued assaults on our democracy, undermining the sanctity of the vote and the integrity of our elections, which are the basis of our democracy.
Pelosi also praised the bravery of the Capitol Police and paid tribute to the 4 members of security who lost their lives following the attack. She made no mention of the 4 members of the rioting crowd that also died on January 6th.
Earlier in the day, U.S. President Joe Biden spoke at the U.S. Capitol, where FSN correspondent Nick Harper filed this report.
Really, there was 2 main themes during President Biden's speech. Firstly, a sustained and fierce attack against his predecessor, Donald Trump, saying that he bore sole responsibility for the attack 1 year ago. And secondly, a warning that democracy is still under threat, mainly because of the lies that Donald Trump told. He also warned that there is that continued threat to American democracy. He said that the lies that drove the anger and madness a year ago have not abated. There is this fear from the Democrats that these lies are continuing to be propagated, mainly on social media. And there are many people who feel that the election was not fairly won by President Biden. But they're also worried about voting rights in various Republican-led states where new laws have been introduced to make voting access harder, especially for minority groups in those states.
Russian forces have arrived in Kazakhstan to help the country's government crack down on widening protests. Dozens of protesters have already been killed in clashes with security forces. The protests were sparked initially by anger over high fuel prices. There were more losses for the tech sector Thursday, with the Nasdaq sliding for the 3rd straight day. FSN's William Denzelo reports from New York.
It was a tough day of trading for some of the biggest names in tech on Thursday. Apple fell more than 1.5% and Netflix slid 2.5%. The tech-heavy Nasdaq index fell for a 3rd straight day, closing down 0.1% on Thursday. The Dow Jones also fell 0.5% and the S&P declined 0.1%.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, phones open. If you want to join us here, you can. The number 603-283-6160. Whether you want to talk about secession, independence, it's not just for New Hampshire, it's just that we're leading the way. You know, I want to see anybody who wants to be able to leave the United States take off. I think it should be, something that the individual should be able to do, but unfortunately, most people wouldn't see that as legitimate, quote unquote. It's going to be hard enough to get people on board with the idea of state secession, but we're working on it here in New Hampshire, and maybe it won't be as successful as a lot of us would like to hope that it's going to be, or maybe it will be way more successful than some people are predicting.
We might get surprised.
There's only one way to find out, and that is to press forward with this thing, presuming that the state reps do not gut this bill in some way or quote-unquote lay it on the table, basically make it a dead letter. There are some dirty tricks that they could try to pull, but as Alu Axelman points out, if we pack the chamber full of people, if there are dozens or over 100, maybe a few hundred people that show up to this thing on January 20th in New Hampshire, it's going to put some serious pressure on these politicians. Politicians, you got to understand, these people want to be liked. They really, really want people to like them, especially the local New Hampshire state rep politicians. They literally are the most representative body in the United States as far as politics is concerned. I don't buy the scam of representation. I don't believe that for a moment. I think that's a joke.
It doesn't make sense that one person can represent the opinion of, 30,000 people in
It's only
New
about
Hampshire?
3,000.
Oh, 3,000. That's crazy.
No, you can't represent the opinions of two people, let alone 30 or 3,000 or 300 or whatever. But as far as the number of people that they quote unquote represent in New Hampshire, it's very, very small. It's 400 state reps into 1.3, 1.4 million people. You do the math, and it's only a few thousand per representative district. You run into these people. If you're going to the grocery store, the person who is your quote unquote representative, there's a good chance that they're in that same grocery store or they shop there. And if you know what they look like, you're going to run into them at some point. It's very, very likely. Some of these people are your literal neighbors, and
you see their license plates all the time. They have the state rep license plates.
Yeah, they got a special plate that actually gives them permission to speed and break traffic laws when they're going to the state.
Is that
house.
right?
Yeah,
And to not have to pay for parking.
Yeah, that's true. They're exempt. They've got a special assigned parking space at the state
It's funny.
house.
I got smoked by an orange 911 on Route 93 there, and I think that was.
Was it a state rep?
Yeah, the big guy there. What's his name? He owns a collection agency.
Oh, Jason Osborne.
Yes.
All they have to say is that they're going to the state house for quote unquote business. And
I figured who that had to be just because, I know he's had fast cars in the past, and I see an orange 911 with a state rep plate, and he was doing about 110.
And you're referring to a guy who is actually the sponsor of Free Talk Live a decade ago, more than a decade ago. One of our earliest, biggest sponsors. He is now the speaker. Is he the speaker? House Majority Leader.
Yeah, he holds, according to the Democrats who hate the Free State Project, he's the one that's got Sununu in a chokehold, and
he's got some serious influence.
And
They wrote Sununu and Jason Osborne, they wrote an article together. So
No, you're thinking of Jason Sorens, who's the founder of the Free State Project.
Yeah, I had them mixed up.
But yes, two different Jasons. Jason Osborne has been very, very successful at working the political system, and so have a lot of the other Free Staters. A lot of them are in positions of influence and positions of power in the state house, and that's only a good thing. So we're talking about the idea of independence. Just a couple of comments from our chat room. We've got multiple different streams that we're streaming out there on video services. Some of the people in YouTube chat, Bikers on Call says, this issue is incredibly complex. I love the idea. We need so many states to secede, but the reality is that it will never happen. And again, I would love to be wrong, he says. So
I just think some people just love to be negative, or it makes them feel safe. Nothing can change my worldview. Nothing's going to change.
But he wants it. He wants to be wrong, he says.
Well, yeah, but it's still too scary. The unknown is still too scary to him.
Maybe that's what's at the root of it. You might be right. I mean, certainly his words don't.
Most people are not
that.
brave, even men. I'm a lot more brave than most men. I seriously think I am.
And I think that the reality is you need to change your attitude about it. Because if your belief is that it will never happen, then
It'll never happen.
Probably will never happen. But if people actually believe that something is possible, then that changes everything. It is totally the most important aspect, is getting people to change their beliefs.
Believe it.
Right. And that's really ultimately what this particular bill is supposed to do, is to get people to talk about independence, is to get people to talk about secession. I mean, I don't think anyone actually really thinks it's going to work the first time out. I mean, I think it's possible. I think that if enough people pack this hearing, if this bill gets through that committee, and enough people in the state reps hear from their constituents, and the people tell them, look, we want to just vote on this. That's all they have to do, is pass this bill so people can vote on it. That's it. They're not voting on secession. They're not voting on independence. They're voting on putting it on the ballot so people can have a say. And so that's a much easier, much more politically acceptable thing to ask for. So I think it could pass. I don't think that, if it's 10 people that show up, it's probably not going to.
Right.
But if it's 100, if it's 200, if people, if hundreds of people call the state reps, then it does have a chance. But it really is all about what people believe. And if right now only 20% of New Hampshire actually believe it's possible to secede, that's actually, I consider, a good starting point.
I was going to say, that's a big number. That's a nice big number. That'd be great if that's the truth.
Because then there's going to be people who are on the fence, and they need to be convinced. And
there's going to be a whole bunch of people who think it's a joke. And I think a good turnout might
they'll
actually
take it seriously.
Yeah, they might. Well, it could go both ways too, because some of them might be like, "Oh my God," they might revolt against it, and other people might be like, "Oh my God, could this actually happen? Could I live in a different country than the United States right here in North America? That'd be pretty cool."
I definitely think people need to be respectful and not on their best behavior in this committee, because we're not here to argue that we won't be there to argue that we want the state to secede. We'll be there to argue that these people need to give us a voice, and that's all we want. I just don't want it to end up like 9 people arrested at the that's all.
That's pretty rare. I mean, of all the years I've been testifying
at
the State House, I've never seen that happen.
Well, House bills maybe not yet, but I'm just saying, in 2021 there was lots of incidents like that.
Well, one thing's for sure, you don't get to control who shows up to these things. So anytime you've got a public activism opportunity, any yahoo, including federal agents, can show up undercover and make a real fool of themselves, and make you look bad if you're on their side.
Then the peaceful people need to just shun him, don't get riled up, control your emotions.
Yeah, we don't know you.
Yep.
Who are you? Where'd you come from?
You can usually spot them.
Army boots.
Yeah.
Buzz cut.
The buzz cut.
Thick sweatshirt, so they have something underneath it, like maybe a whatever.
They got sunglasses.
Right? They're in shape.
You're thinking of body armor?
Body armor, yeah, there we go. Buzz cut, yeah.
So let's see. The other comment here, Edwin Lundstrom says, Texit is more likely, but it won't happen here either.
It's not more likely. I lived in Texas. It was just never a conversation, and if it ever did come up, it was my crazy uncle, he thinks we should secede. Oh my God, that's crazy. That's the extent of it. I've lived in Texas for the largest part of any state I've ever lived in.
Well, there were a lot of people that signed a petition back in 2012 after Obama took office in Texas. I think they got to 100,000 signatures asking for the federal government to answer the question of, well, what about Texas? Can Texas secede? And, of course, Obama...
Well, then they're already failing because it's in their constitution that they can secede.
Yeah, it is. And, of course, Obama's official response was, we settled that with the Civil War.
So you're asking the federal government if you can secede, even though it's in your constitution. I'm pretty sure that's never going to happen in that state.
Right. That is a failure right out the gate in Texas. Now, I do want to see Texas have success at this. I want them to be able to secede. So again, it is really all about belief. But
yeah, I don't want to say never, but I think that New Hampshire would come way before Texas.
Well, that's the thing. They had a bill last year, but it was only a resolution, and it didn't even get into a committee. It got killed politically. So you don't get hearings for bills in Texas like you do for every bill in New Hampshire. More coming up.
Free Talk Live, the show where anyone can call about whatever they want. And we do mean anyone.
World fast for peace. I don't understand what she said. If the whole world fasted like Gandhi, we would see great results for this struggle to survive world order. There's never going to be any peace. You sound like you're on drugs, dear. It sounds like you're a flower child. You're pumped up on drugs. Any woman who doesn't agree with you is on drugs or something. I may be a racist and anti-Semite, but I have all my faculties. Well, racism and sexism are one. You're one of those love mankind, love thy neighbor.
And I am too, and thank you both for the call tonight. I appreciate hearing from you. That is the one thing I can certainly agree with the lady on. Normally I can't understand a word that she says, but I think Scott, the bigot, did interpret her correctly, and that she is interested in peace, and I like that.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen Line, 641-793-0191.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The number, if you want to join us, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian, Matt,
and Bonnie.
And I do want to say thank you to Paul, who is a supporter of the new AMPS program. He's gold level, which means that Paul's contributing at least $10 a month to AMPS. You can join as well over at amps.freetalklive.com. It stands for Advertise, Market, Support, and Promote Free Talk Live, to help us get Free Talk Live on more great radio stations around the country. We've got over 195 stations now. So, and I should also welcome our newest affiliate. I forgot to say hello to them. So, want to say hello to KWBG on AM and FM in Boone, Iowa, which is right outside of the city of Des Moines. So, welcome to our new listeners. We actually used to be on in Boone a long time ago on a different station. So, it's great to be back on in the market, and we are there not all 7 nights, but 5 nights a week. So weeknights.
Weekdays,
yeah, all 3 hours per night live. So welcome if you're just tuning into Free Talk Live for the first time. Actually, I don't know if you are, because they're a sports station. They air sports games. So I don't know. Are we in the middle of baseball's not on right now, right? There's no baseball.
Football isn't over because.
But there's no football game on tonight, so
I don't know.
Spring training should be starting soon.
So yeah, I'm guessing we're probably on. If we are on, you want to test us out, feel free. It's open phones every single night here. Whatever you're interested in talking about, we're a national radio show. You can come on the air, and people all around the country and around the world will hear you. The numbers.
Oh, sorry, but the Super Bowl is in February, so shouldn't football be happening right now?
Weekends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Monday Night Football, I think
they're just running bread and circus constantly now. Isn't there always something going on that's sports related?
That's what it seemed like when Ian was in jail. It was always
They were
Red
baseball
Sox.
games on at the time that I was in jail, though.
Yeah.
So that's why.
All the time.
Well, it's summertime, though. Like spring and summer.
Yeah, but that was baseball.
But in the winter, it's basketball, hockey, and football. Right.
Well, anyway, welcome aboard to KWBG there in Boone, Iowa. Our number is 603-283-6160. Kazakhstan. We need to get into this story because it's pretty wild. What caught my attention yesterday was the fact that their Capitol building was set ablaze. And that's going to catch anybody's attention. And apparently caught the government of Kazakhstan's attention because they resigned on Wednesday, as according to thehill.com, demonstrators set fire.
Is that true, though? Because I've been hearing that they've been calling for the president to step down. So how did the whole government resign, but yet there's still a president?
Well, maybe the president didn't resign. I don't know. I mean, I don't have all the details, but I'll share with what they have at The Hill. And then we'll get into more on it from The Sun. But they are protesting rising fuel prices and the political hold of former President Nursultan Nazarbayev. Videos throughout the country showed protesters yelling, "Old man, go away!" And gunshots were heard while public buildings were burned in the city of Almaty, according to Reuters. All cabinet members resigned in response to the outburst, but protesters still left a path of destruction. Police were seen using water cannons and stun grenades against the demonstrators.
Old man, go away is a very relatable phrase.
The protests were triggered by a spike in fuel prices and the 3-decade rule of Nazarbayev, who still has control over his party and is in charge of the Security Council. The current president, whose name is Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, was picked by the former president, according to Reuters.
They didn't even get to vote for him?
That's not clear. Calls to attack premises of civilian and military agencies are absolutely illegal. The current president said in response to the protests, this is a crime and legal punishment may follow.
I think they're past caring what's illegal if they're burning down the Capitol building.
Beheading cops.
Yeah, killing cops.
Almaty's police chief, Kanat Tamerdanov, said in a statement 120 vehicles have been burned, 500 civilians have been injured, and dozens of businesses have been destroyed. Now, I always feel bad when protesters don't focus. Focus your efforts on the real problem. KFC, even if they're run by some mega corporation, they're still not your oppressor.
Yeah.
It's the government
The
gang.
cashier at KFC is not your enemy.
Yeah, they're probably your neighbor.
I'm sure at least a large load of the people that attacks businesses during protests weren't actually protesting. They're just taking advantage of the chaos.
Right, to loot and things like that. But there's another story here from the U.S. Sun. Kazakhstan has erupted in flames during an uprising which has seen 3 cops beheaded by mobs in the street. Russian quote-unquote peacekeeping tanks and troops are now being sent into Kazakhstan by Vladimir Putin to help crush the protests, which began on Sunday over a sharp rise in the price of fuel.
Let's just hope Borat keeps his head down for a while.
That's right, he's from there, right?
I was asking Ian, isn't he from there or was he from a made-up place?
No, it's from Kazakhstan. They have superior potassium there.
In total, 13 police have been killed as of the writing of this article, and the Kazakh government said the severing of 3 officers' heads proved that riots were of a, quote, terrorist character, unquote. It is not yet known if the rioters decapitated the victims while they were still alive or mutated their bodies after they died. It's also not known if they weren't set there by the government themselves.
That's true. That's true.
Some 353 law enforcement officers were wounded in Flashpoint City, Almaty, and around 2,000 protesters have been detained. Russia has sent in 3,000 troops to Kazakhstan and around 500 to Belarus.
I was wondering how that would go because I saw a picture of where Kazakhstan is exactly today.
Right on the border
it's
of
on the border
Russia.
of Russia and China. So I was wondering how that would go. Like, are those countries getting scared about this?
Yeah, Russia has invaded. One video, well, they're quote-unquote helping. But one video shows protesters outside a hospital forming a human shield, apparently angry that wounded police were getting priority over demonstrators. They demanded, quote, no treatment for cops, unquote. And that is going a lot farther than just some peaceful protests and
Correct.
people
that's
chanting things.
I'm
in the United
surprised they're
States.
being that direct about it. I mean, I'm surprised there are people out there who understand that police are the protectors of the ruling class that are affecting them. Police are the ones that are actually doing the attacking on the behalf of the ruling class.
It seems a lot more direct oppression in their countries. I mean,
Sure.
it is direct oppression in our country, like I said earlier. It's just as bad, but they are so more sly about hiding it. That in Kazakhstan, the old president that they don't like picked the president that they have now.
Yeah,
so.
the corruption is more blatant, and that is going to create a different response for sure. They don't.
These people are comfortable in America, and
yes, there is that too.
The corruption's pretty blatant here too.
well, to people who are looking.
Yeah, that's true. You do have to be paying attention, and that's why the media, I think, and all their coverage of this this January 6th quote-unquote insurrection is still working on people, because there's people that just don't know what the truth is. They've never looked into it themselves.
Surrounded by idiots.
Yeah,
got to be surrounded by morons.
They just believe whatever it is that the people on the news say. They actually believe politicians.
They make it things as confusing as possible too. So if somebody isn't interested, then they're like, "I'm going to look into this." They'll just immediately get, "Never mind. That's confusing."
Let's see here. So the cameras, I guess there's some shocking video showing the bodies of dozens of protesters killed in the unrest. Corpses in the mortuary of Almaty indicate the scale of the carnage. Commentary on the footage says the corpses, the bodies of protesters, different ages, young people. These are all protesters, adult, young, very young. The camera shows one corpse up close. This one had surgery. Stitches can be seen, but he died despite this. Overnight, police spokesman admitted the slaughter of dozens of protesters. So there's definitely, violence on both sides of this. And videos also show widespread looting, of course, with 7 hypermarkets totally empty of goods in the country's worst ever mass unrest. One gun shop was looted and weapons were stolen when rampaging protesters overran the Almaty branch of the National Security Committee, which is the state secret service.
Wow.
The equivalent of the Russian FSB. So this is basically like the FBI or the Secret Service here in the United States. The entire building was overrun by protesters. Meanwhile, Russia and other ex-Soviet states are sending in the military reinforcements, as they mentioned here.
Did you say they're sending people into Belarus too?
That's what the Russians are doing for whatever reason, yeah.
Huh.
Let's see here. It's undermining the integrity of the state, said the president, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, saying he blamed terrorist bans, but there are literally thousands of people in the streets. I was just looking at video footage of gas workers that were going on strike together over this. So, I mean, this isn't just some sort of riffraff that's in the streets causing trouble.
Do you think Ceausescu ever called the protesters in Romania terrorists before Ceausescu?
I'm not familiar with that.
He was the dictator of Romania for many, many years, and finally one day everybody got fed up and just went out and got him, and they lined him up in an alleyway with his wife and gunned them both down.
Wow.
That was 1989 or something, or 1990, something like that. Nicolae Ceausescu.
I hope this isn't some kind of, deep plot to get, a reason for Russia to invade Ukraine. Just because this is all close together, and I don't know, they could come up with some lie. We have to get troops in Belarus, Ukraine, Kazakhstan.
We got more coming up here, yeah, so it could be a Russian plot. I don't know. This seems like people who are really pissed legitimately at once again, all governments are terrible, so theirs is awful. There's more coming up here. It's Free Talk Live. You can share your thoughts. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com. Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The United States House of Representatives has held a moment of silence to mark the anniversary of the attack on the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi says a year on, U.S. democracy is still under threat. FSN's U.S. correspondent Sarah Walton reports.
At midday on Thursday, House representatives held a moment of silence in the same spot that 12 months ago they'd hidden behind chairs and under desks as rioters attempted to break into the chamber. But just 2 members of the Republican Party were present to take part in the memorial, and Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the country remains hugely divided, alluding to the introduction of controversial new voting rights legislation in some parts of the country.
Since the January 6th insurrection, there have been continued assaults on our democracy, undermining the sanctity of the vote and the integrity of our elections, which are the basis of our democracy.
Pelosi also praised the bravery of the Capitol Police and paid tribute to the 4 members of security who lost their lives following the attack. She made no mention of the 4 members of the rioting crowd that also died on January 6th.
Earlier in the day, U.S. President Joe Biden spoke at the U.S. Capitol, where FSN correspondent Nick Harper filed this report.
Really, there was 2 main themes during President Biden's speech. Firstly, a sustained and fierce attack against his predecessor, Donald Trump, saying that he bore sole responsibility for the attack 1 year ago. And secondly, a warning that democracy is still under threat, mainly because of the lies that Donald Trump told. He also warned that there is that continued threat to American democracy. He said that the lies that drove the anger and madness a year ago have not abated. There is this fear from the Democrats that these lies are continuing to be propagated, mainly on social media. And there are many people who feel that the election was not fairly won by President Biden. But they're also worried about voting rights in various Republican-led states where new laws have been introduced to make voting access harder, especially for minority groups in those states.
Russian forces have arrived in Kazakhstan to help the country's government crack down on widening protests. Dozens of protesters have already been killed in clashes with security forces. The protests were sparked initially by anger over high fuel prices. There were more losses for the tech sector Thursday, with the Nasdaq sliding for the 3rd straight day. FSN's William Denzelo reports from New York.
It was a tough day of trading for some of the biggest names in tech on Thursday. Apple fell more than 1.5% and Netflix slid 2.5%. The tech-heavy Nasdaq index fell for a 3rd straight day, closing down 0.1% on Thursday. The Dow Jones also fell 0.5% and the S&P declined 0.1%.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking in more detail today at the protests in Kazakhstan. It is a vast country stretching from the Caspian Sea in the west all the way to its border with China and Russia in the Altai Mountains. Dominated for decades by former President Nursultan Nazarbayev, who governed Kazakhstan when it was a Soviet republic and then recreated himself as the USSR collapsed, it's now ruled by his former Prime Minister Kasim Tokayev. FSN's Moscow correspondent Julia Chapman told us more.
Protests are a relatively rare occurrence in Kazakhstan, but not unheard of. Demonstrators are met with a fairly heavy hand by Kazakh authorities, so it takes a lot for people to take to the streets. Kazakhstan is the richest Central Asian nation, but many ordinary Kazakhs don't feel the benefit of those revenues. And these protests are really a huge test for President Tokayev, who came to power in 2019, because many Kazakhs only ever knew Nursultan Nazarbayev as their leader, following 30 years of his rule. But his role in Kazakhstan is now very uncertain. A video circulating on social media appeared to show protesters trying to pull down a statue of Nazarbayev. The tide does appear to be turning against the old guard.
Kazakhstan has been an oasis of relative stability in Central Asia, attracting foreign investors. Stability, though, is now at risk as protests against rising fuel prices express broader public frustrations. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. The U.S. House of Representatives holds a moment of silence to mark the one-year anniversary of the attack on the U.S. Capitol. Russian forces arrive in Kazakhstan to help the government there crack down on widening protests over high fuel prices. And more losses for the tech sector Thursday, with the Nasdaq sliding for the third straight day. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer reporting.
I always dreamed of providing the nation with concise recaps of the week's events. One fateful summer in 1934, legendary onion mogul T. Herman Zwiebel was passing through our town to acquire an oil derrick when he overheard me calling in the oxen in my breathy baritone and offered me the opportunity of a lifetime. Yes, from the turbulent war times of the 1940s.
The Onion welcomes the majestic Axis armies as conquering heroes.
To the free-spirited 60s. And remember, there's nothing more cosmic than keeping your house insulated with Thermoflake brand asbestos. I can truly say I've been here for the turning of the ages. But now, viewers, my beautiful 19-year-old wife and I will take our much-deserved retirement to my Genevan chateau. I wish all of my detractors empty, destitute lives. And for my allies, I hope for all the pleasures availed by heaven. So, finally, let me say one last time. For more, keep checking theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, and phones are open here if you want to talk about whatever's on your mind. We've been discussing so-called insurrection in the United States and a real insurrection going on in Kazakhstan where members of their, I don't know, what do you call it, the government parliament or something like that, they've resigned as a result of, well, the Capitol building and other buildings got set on fire, apparently, after gas prices doubled in the country of Kazakhstan. And that is
overnight.
That is what set people off and set them into the streets in huge numbers, not just protesting, but actually burning down the system. And as a result, thousands of troops have been sent in, tanks rolled in from neighboring Russia, and I presume other places will be coming to bear with their violence to try to stop the people from actually taking back control of their land.
I'm sorry, if some foreign country ever rolled up in here to keep the peace, I would have a really hard time standing for that.
Yeah, well, I don't think these people are going to stand for it either. I mean, they're apparently killing cops in the streets, or at least that's what the government wants you to believe. According to the story here at The Sun, the-sun.com, the country has seen pent-up resentment over low wages and poverty and the enrichment of a narrow elite controlling the government and Kazakhstan's oil and gas reserves. Last night, a statue of former autocrat Nursultan Nazarbayev was toppled by an angry mob. Nazarbayev, 81, yesterday gave up his final role in overall charge of security. Rumors suggest he may have fled to China or Russia, which is always what you see in these situations. Wherever there's like an uprising by the people, whether it be the Arab Spring or you name it, whatever it is we're talking about, the evil dictator, if they're not caught up in the actual blaze of the Capitol building burning to the ground, they themselves will grab the nearest helicopter and get out of there.
They're out of there. Yeah. They're going to have shelter somewhere.
So they roll up on a beach in Thailand or Brazil or something like that.
They got it made.
Rumors suggest, again, he may have fled to China or Russia. One report said Russia had 10 I don't know if these are I's or L's, IL-76s and 3 AN-124s involved in a massive military operation. I presume those are tanks to quell the disturbances. And then apparently planes from Russia are also involved in this as well. We'll keep you up to date as we learn more. But if you've been paying closer attention to Kazakhstan, let us know. There's one other detail they don't mention here in the Sun story, but I heard on one of the radio news reports on free... what the hell's our news? We have this news break. It's not free speech radio.
No, front
Feature
page,
Story News.
Feature Story News.
Feature Story News, which is the little newscast thing that we run on our internet streams. They mentioned that internet service has been cut off in Kazakhstan. And that has actually caused some problems for Bitcoin miners. As it turns out, Kazakhstan is or was until the internet got turned off. Presumably it will be again when the internet's turned back on if everyone hasn't left. But it was the world's second biggest crypto mining country on the planet.
That's interesting. After who? China?
Well, China would have been number one. I don't think they still are. I think the United States took over number one because the Chinese government made mining illegal.
Oh.
You didn't hear about that?
You know, I did. I forgot about it, though. Last I knew, China was like mining like crazy. They were setting up entire banks like run by water power and stuff.
Yeah, well, also just power in general was cheaper in certain areas of China, and I suspect that was like northern China or whatever, and Kazakhstan is north of China, right? Like isn't it northwest basically of China?
Well, there's quite a bit of sun in Kazakhstan. Don't they do a lot of solar?
I imagine there's a lot of cold in Kazakhstan during this time of year.
Right under Russia.
It's right next to Russia. So... I think what probably happened would be that a bunch of the miners that were in China just crossed the border over into Kazakhstan. Their Bitcoin mining industry, according to CoinDesk, which was the world's second largest, has been severely disrupted for more than one day now by a nationwide internet blackout amid widespread protests. So you've got a corrupt government, right? When they turn off the internet. Oh, we can't let people see what's going on here.
No, okay, so just got to play devil's advocate for the conspiracy theorists here. Do you think it had to do with that? Do you think this is just another faked kind of thing or an insurrection that was, made real for other reasons? Like, I have this theory that the whole coronavirus thing, the whole COVID-19 thing has to do with the governments of the world trying to give themselves a little bit of time to catch up to figure out what to do about cryptocurrency. So now if we got China...
Well, I said something like that recently, and I think it was Chris on the show with us, and he was just like, I don't know if they're going after it just because of cryptocurrency, but cryptocurrency can literally destroy the idea that governments are reasonable at all, that there's any reason to have a government at all.
The crypto can in every way decimate the power of government and banking altogether at once. The military-industrial complex just falls right apart.
But you think coronavirus has something to do with that?
Sure, it's false flag. They pump this crap out there so they can grab more control, take everybody's eye off the ball, start issuing more and more free money. They started throwing free money at everybody. Look how important our dollars are to you. You need these, and here, have some, and making people feel comfortable with the government, feel comfortable with the dollar.
I feel like they need the government.
They need it, and really they don't. And I think that may have just been, if that wasn't the sole reason for the COVID-19 thing, it was definitely a side hustle of it and a very handy one. So if China just, banned crypto mining and everybody went across the border to Kazakhstan to do it, maybe that was them saying, not being able to keep up with the market force. So they exerted political pressure and, various methods they have at their disposal to create unrest and actually make it so that you couldn't mine in Kazakhstan either.
I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting theory. That'd be a tough one to prove in this case. And presumably at some point the internet is going to come back to Kazakhstan. It's hard to imagine that a country would be left in the dark forever as far as internet service is concerned. So it would be interesting to see how long this lasts.
Yeah, but if I was a crypto miner in Kazakhstan, I'd move now.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of them are packing up shop as we speak because you can't be in the crypto mining business.
Well, Russia's invading your country.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you certainly don't want tanks rolling through your shop, but secondly, if you don't have internet, you don't have a business.
Right.
So just pack it up and move
Which is actually
somewhere
more
else.
proof of well capitalism works, because people are just going to move where their business can succeed,
where it's welcome.
Welcome. Yeah. And so if these guys can't get the job done, and it's important for the network too. So I mean, the crypto has to have miners. You cannot have crypto without miners.
Correct.
And these guys are going to go where they can mine.
Top mining pools had lost an average of 10% of their hash rate over 24 hours as of 6 a.m. UTC, according to data from BTC.com, which has a mining pool. Their hash rate measures computing power, which is the total amount of hardware that's cranking away on the Bitcoin network. It got just dropped 10% after Kazakhstan's remaining government threw the switch and turned off the internet. I mean, the fact that the government can just order that to happen,
they just hit a switch and it shuts off,
is really scary.
Sure.
And I wonder, how possible is that here in the United States, given that
probably pretty.
Yeah, given that the internet backbones are privately run, there are private companies that are, the big pipes that move data around. I mean, presumably the U.S. government would have to call them up. I would hope that they don't have a kill switch.
If they're not just fronts for government agency in the first place.
Kazakhstan is second only to the U.S. in Bitcoin mining hash rate, with about 1/5 of the global total, according to August data from Cambridge Bitcoin Electricity Consumption Index. Quote, it looks like the internet is down in all of Kazakhstan, according to the head of their National Association of Blockchain and Data Center Industry. And there were a lot of websites that are apparently hosted there. There was one of the major, I think it was like blockchair.com, like one of these websites that hosts the blockchain searchable engine where you can like type in a Bitcoin address and then look at all their history, right? One of those block explorers is what they're called. They had posted on their social media yesterday that, hey, we're sorry, our servers are down. We aren't, our site's down because our servers are down. So apparently there's a lot of websites hosted in Kazakhstan as well. Sad stuff. And of course, if the internet's down, we really don't know what's going on there, because the people on the ground aren't able to get their independent individual reports out. You're not able to stream video. Right. You're not able to update a social media profile. So then you have to go on what the national media is saying.
It's like a meat world denial of service attack.
Scary stuff. There's more coming up here, and you can share your thoughts. We'll talk about the internet dying coming up.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
to random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Phones open for you. If you want to join us here, 603-283-6160. Is the United States internet infrastructure set up to where the U.S. government can flip a switch and turn it off? This is honestly a question I don't know the answer to.
I couldn't see them setting it up in the first place without already having that backdoor in place.
If you know, if you paid attention to the technicals, feel free to give us a call. Let us know. The number is 603-283-6160. Also, speaking of cryptocurrency, we've been telling you about how Intercoin can help any business or organization launch their own currency or raise money using their own token. And now Intercoin has launched its investor token worldwide, and for the first time, it is available on an exchange. You can create an account over at xmarkets.com, exmarkets.com, with just an email address there so you can keep your privacy intact, and then deposit dozens of different cryptocurrencies, including Bitcoin. Trade those for Tether, and then use your Tether to buy ITR, which is the Intercoin Investor Token. You can learn more about the Intercoin vision at intercoin.org. You could buy or sell ITR on xmarkets.com, exmarkets.com. You just might be advancing the cause of liberty around the world. So we were just talking about the internet being shut down in Kazakhstan and the effect that that's having on web hosting as well as Bitcoin mining, with Kazakhstan being the second biggest country for Bitcoin mining on the planet, which is pretty interesting. I did not know that. It's something I've learned here tonight. But that takes us into a story, Bonnie, that you've been wanting to talk about this evening, which is something called dead internet theory? What is it called?
It's dead internet theory.
And what is that all about? You were telling me a little bit of it last night, but we didn't really get deep into it.
Well, I wanted to bring this story in because I just think it's something that I've always had a suspicion about, and I've alluded to it several times on the show, but not very eloquently because I didn't have anything to point at. Just little observations I've made without, taking notes while being on the internet have pointed me in the direction of there are people out there, maybe AI, maybe not even people, who just post and keep posting the same opinions until the humans that are on the internet agree with it. And that's not exactly what dead internet theory is, but the dead internet theory is that AI now controls more of the internet, or, has more internet accounts, presence than real humans, and that the internet is dead, and it has been for 5 years, since 2017. This from The Atlantic. Maybe you missed it, but the internet died 5 years ago. A conspiracy theory spreading online says the whole internet is now fake. It's ridiculous, but possibly not that ridiculous. If you search the phrase "I hate texting" on Twitter and scroll down, you will start to notice a pattern. And then she references 4 different accounts with similar pictures, something like a glowing pink orb or a glowing pink heart, all with really girly Twitter handle names, posting almost the same thing. "I hate texting, I just want to hold your hand. I hate texting, just come live with me." Receiving 30,000 likes, 48,000 likes, 16,000 likes. There are slight changes to the verb choice and girlish username and color scheme, but the idea is the same. I'm a person with a crush in the age of smartphones, and isn't that relatable? Yes, it sure is, but some people on Twitter have wondered whether these are really truly just people with crushes in the age of smartphones saying something relatable. They've pointed at them as possible evidence validating a wild idea called dead internet theory. Let me explain. Dead internet theory suggests that the internet has been almost entirely taken over by artificial intelligence. Like lots of other online conspiracy theories, the audience for this one is growing because of discussion led by a mix of true believers, sarcastic trolls, and idly curious lovers of chit-chat. One might, for example, point to @_Capricorn, a Twitter account with what looks like a blue orb with a pink spot in the middle as a profile picture. In the spring, the account tweeted, "I hate texting, come over and cuddle me," and then "I hate texting, I just want to hug you," and then "I hate texting, just come live with me," and then "I hate texting, I just want to kiss you," which got 1,300 likes but didn't perform as well as it did for other accounts that she referenced. But unlike lots of other online conspiracy theories, this one has a morsel of truth to it. Person or bot, does it really matter? Dead internet theory. It's terrifying, but this person loves it. I'm going to skip how she found out about it.
So she loves this?
She thinks it's funny.
The person who wrote the article?
She loves reading about conspiracy theories, and she goes into that.
Okay.
She found out about it on 4chan, and a person named Illuminati Pirate, that's the name of the person who posted about it for the first time, truly believes in the theory, but... Oh, wait, sorry. I skipped a little part. Let's go here. Peppered with casually offensive language, the post she first found out about it in suggests that the internet died in 2016 or early 2017, and that now it is empty and devoid of people, as well as entirely sterile. Much of the supposedly human-produced content you see online was actually created using AI and was propagated by bots, possibly aided by a group of influencers on the payroll of various corporations that are in cahoots with the government. The conspiring group's intention is, of course, to control our thoughts and get us to purchase stuff.
That's really not so hard to believe.
It's not at all.
Well, I mean, the hard part to believe is the idea that look, I buy the idea that there are AI out there, right? We've reported recently on these deepfake personalities, basically.
So creepy.
That are, if they're not completely AI, we know that the images are deepfake created, so they're not real, quote-unquote, people, even though there may be an actual human being at a corporation who's tweeting out for this person who's making posts on their behalf. So they've created these fake people that are essentially, easy to sponsor because they're never going to get embroiled in a controversy, right? Like they're never going to cheat on their wife because they don't actually have one, or whatever, right? Like there's never going to be something like that with one of these.
But they'll also give you opinions.
They give you opinions, and they have sponsorships, corporate sponsorships, and that kind of thing. So we know there's a lot of fakery going on the internet, and I think there's a lot of evidence for what you're saying, Bonnie, with these accounts that are posting very similar things, sort of algorithm-sounding kind of posts, questionable accounts. But I don't think that means the internet's empty. That's the part I don't buy here, is like everybody I know is on the internet.
Yeah, that's the part I don't get, how A equals B.
Well, I mean, I think there's a matter of ratios that needs to be talked about here too. I mean, they can create an unlimited number of fake accounts and bot accounts, and by comparison, if there are way more of those than there are actual human beings on the internet, then yeah, the internet's effectively dead.
Yeah.
Like living people on the internet
see what
are
you're saying.
A much smaller number in comparison to the fake accounts.
What is the ratio?
Yeah.
We don't
that
know.
matters.
We don't know the answer to that question, but I guess that's what she's alleging here in this story, is that there are more fakes on the internet than there are real people, so therefore it's sort of quote unquote empty in that way.
Yeah, and one thing, even, I don't think she mentions it, but even if there aren't more AI than humans, the AI somehow is what is influencing what everybody talks about. Like on Twitter, people just say the same things over and over again, and they act like it's their personality, when I'm like, I saw somebody else say the same thing. It's like it wasn't original. Like, why are we all repeating the same things and they don't even know it? Yeah,
we watched this interesting animation from Visual Capitalist. Have you ever seen any of their stuff?
I don't think so.
It's interesting stuff. They made an animation that showed over the course of the year what people were talking about in the United States on the internet. We'll bring that up and talk about it further because it's relevant here, I think. It's Free Talk Live.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new. If you'd like to see real prosperity, start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, its impact's hard to overstate, results you can appreciate. If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great, homelessness and hunger to eliminate, let the wealth accumulate. Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate. Go to intercoin.org and get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The United States House of Representatives has held a moment of silence to mark the anniversary of the attack on the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi says a year on, U.S. democracy is still under threat. FSN's U.S. correspondent Sarah Walton reports.
At midday on Thursday, House representatives held a moment of silence in the same spot that 12 months ago they'd hidden behind chairs and under desks as rioters attempted to break into the chamber. But just 2 members of the Republican Party were present to take part in the memorial, and Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the country remains hugely divided, alluding to the introduction of controversial new voting rights legislation in some parts of the country.
Since the January 6th insurrection, there have been continued assaults on our democracy, undermining the sanctity of the vote and the integrity of our elections, which are the basis of our democracy.
Pelosi also praised the bravery of the Capitol Police and paid tribute to the 4 members of security who lost their lives following the attack. She made no mention of the 4 members of the rioting crowd that also died on January 6th.
Earlier in the day, U.S. President Joe Biden spoke at the U.S. Capitol, where FSN correspondent Nick Harper filed this report.
Really, there was 2 main themes during President Biden's speech. Firstly, a sustained and fierce attack against his predecessor Donald Trump, saying that he bore sole responsibility for the attack 1 year ago. And secondly, a warning that democracy is still under threat, mainly because of the lies that Donald Trump told. He also warned that there is that continued threat to American democracy. He said that the lies that drove the anger and madness a year ago have not abated. There is this fear from the Democrats that these lies are continuing to be propagated, mainly on social media. And there are many people who feel that the election was not fairly won by President Biden. But they're also worried about voting rights in various Republican-led states where new laws have been introduced to make voting access harder, especially for minority groups in those states.
Russian forces have arrived in Kazakhstan to help the country's government crack down on widening protests. Dozens of protesters have already been killed in clashes with security forces. The protests were sparked initially by anger over high fuel prices. There were more losses for the tech sector Thursday, with the Nasdaq sliding for the 3rd straight day. FSN's William Denzelo reports from New York.
It was a tough day of trading for some of the biggest names in tech on Thursday. Apple fell more than 1.5% and Netflix slid 2.5%. The tech-heavy Nasdaq index fell for a 3rd straight day, closing down 0.1% on Thursday. The Dow Jones also fell 0.5% and the S&P declined 0.1%.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can join us here. We're talking about dead internet theory. It's an idea that I had not heard of before you brought it up, Bonnie. It's a story that you're sharing, I think, from The Atlantic.
Yes.
And the idea, as I understand it so far, and we're going to dig further into it here, is that not that the internet is dead in that there's nothing there, because obviously there's a ton of content on the internet. We spend a good chunk of our lives delving into that content, not just because we're talk show hosts, but just because a lot of our friends are there, and I tend to believe that most of my friends on the internet are real people. But what you're pointing out is there's a theory that there's a lot of fakery out there, that there's a lot of robots, a lot of artificial intelligence postings that are duplicated, that are setting conversations, that are putting ideas in people's heads, maybe spreading around certain news stories or propaganda.
And I'd like to point out, you have heard the idea before from me, just not in the same name, because I've been saying this forever.
That there are a bunch of robots on
Every
the
time you talk about something depressing you're watching on Twitter, I'm just like, why are you showing me that? It's just a Fed posted that to make you depressed or whatever. I'm always saying that. It's just a bunch of fake people arguing. Ian, why are you wasting your time watching fake Fed people arguing? Well, I didn't really think they were AI, but it makes a lot of sense that they would be AI because they don't have that much manpower to have all these fake bots.
And now there's a nice brand name for it, Dead Internet. That is super catchy.
You're referring to videos that I play of people like doing things in real life, though.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, it's not that interesting. It's something that, it's not something that, okay, not that the videos you watch aren't interesting, but I don't think that there would really be that much of an uproar about, did you see this person getting in a fight at McDonald's? And there's an uproar about it on Twitter. There's not really an uproar on Twitter. The feds just want you to be distracted. I'm always saying things like that to you all the time, and then you say, I've never heard this idea.
Well, let's go on. The story that you're sharing is...
Oh, wait, but you're going to tell about the video.
Oh, yeah. So there's this video visualcapitalist.com put together that animates over an entire year, basically. And each frame of the video is, well, it's probably a little longer than one frame, but a fraction of a second is one day. And so the whole, 300-something days in this video goes by in 1 minute. And over that time frame, you see what the top Google searches are, according to Google's results, at least, presuming they're giving us honest results, for that day in each state in the United States. And it's very interesting because it shows these trends are almost ubiquitous across the entire United States. It's very rare that you will see one state that will be different. Now, for instance, like when the Hurricane Ida struck down in the southeast, those states did have Hurricane Ida as their number one search, and then that went away, as soon as that boiled over. But besides that and a few other little blips here and there, for the most part, it was all the same searches throughout the entire year. And
Mississippi had Dogecoin as their search or highest search for the longest period of time.
Yeah, that was one of the flukes.
That was interesting to see that kind of happen.
And it was interesting to see that Dogecoin took over the entire country for
days.
For what looks like 2 or 3 weeks solid, because it was up there for a while. And then after Dogecoin went away, Mississippi still had Dogecoin as their number one search. So there's probably a bunch of Dogecoin millionaires in Mississippi, or billionaires or whatever. But so, it is interesting to see how these trends do spread, and it does, make me wonder, do these bots or these AI posters out there, do they play a role in that?
I bet they do. Going back to the article from The Atlantic, she says, as evidence, Illuminati Pirate, which is the person who started Dead Internet Theory, giving it a name.
Someone on 4chan?
Yes. Offers this example. I've seen the same threads, the same pics, and the same replies posted over and over across the years, which is basically all I've been saying. It's not really that I have anything to point at, because I'm always on Instagram or something like that. I've been recently trying to cut back as much as I possibly can because I'm on it all the time. And it just makes me sick because I just hate things that aren't human. I really do. So, and You know that I'm an organic supremacist. So when I see things and I'm just like, nobody thinks that. I get so annoyed. And I've been saying this for years, literally.
You can switch to TikTok, Bonnie.
No, TikTok is even worse.
It's all people, though.
I don't know. I like
How do you
TikTok,
know?
but I get too trapped by it. I only ever had it for like a month in 2020, and I was like, yep.
How do you know
Never
they're not
going back.
deepfakes?
I don't know that they're not
Deepfakes are getting really good.
There's something. Maybe they are real people though, because I can tell you, I hate TikTok so bad.
It's the number one website
I
now.
know it is, but it grinds me so hard just to even see one or two of them.
Is it because they play the same sounds over and over again?
I think so, but it also could be maybe I'm just really warmed up to my robot overlords, and every time I see a real person,
it makes you
grinds me
angry.
the wrong way.
No.
At least I heard they were the number one website. According to SimilarWeb, they're not.
I saw that too.
So I don't know.
Saw they were the number one above Google.
Maybe that was fake news.
Well, it says he argues that all modern entertainment is generated and recommended by an algorithm, gestures at the existence of deepfakes, which suggests that anything at all may be an illusion, and links to a New York story from 2018 titled, "How Much of the Internet is Fake?" Turns out a lot of it, actually. I think it's entirely obvious what I'm subtly suggesting here, given this setup, the post continues. The U.S. government is engaging in an artificial intelligence-powered gaslighting of the entire world population. So far, the original post has been viewed more than 73,000 times. And the article goes on to say, obviously the internet is not a government psyop. She just says that. She just says it,
I think she's being facetious when she says that.
Well, even though the Department of Defense had a role in its invention. But if it were, the most compelling evidence to me is the dead internet theory's observation that the same news items about unusual moon-related events seem to repeat year after year. I swear I've been saying this for years, she says. What is a superflower blood moon? What is a pink supermoon? A quick search of headlines from just this month brings up, there's something special about this weekend's moon. Don't miss, rare seasonal blue moon rises tonight, and why this weekend's blue moon is extra rare. She says, I don't understand why everyone is so invested in making me look at the moon all the time. Leave me alone about the moon. And I would say that's not the best example, because I can see why a news article would want to write about, like, oh, we need a filler. There's some special moon going on. We're going to write an article about it. And people will click on that. But I think it's even deeper than that. I think it's like every meme that gets viral has like a reason behind it, something that they want you to see or be focused on. And every tweet that gets turned into an ugly, like, cropped picture meme and put on Instagram so girls can have their political opinions without having to read anything.
Okay, I guess I don't know if I buy the idea that 4chan memes are planted by the government. I mean, some of these things, like if you go to Know Your Meme, for instance, there's some classic memes that have been out there for a long time. Most of them came out on 4chan. I mean, these are just internet geeks posting funny stuff on the internet. I don't think that means that there's a government plot.
There's a different spirit behind different memes. So maybe like Bad Luck Brian wasn't a government ops, but when there's memes that are created to say political things, I can only see them being government ops.
I guess I just don't know what those would look like, right? Like I don't think I see those memes just because I'm in the libertarian internet circles, and so I see funny memes that
They're
are
bad
against
memes.
the government. They're
That's
against
the other
the
thing.
state.
That's the other thing that I was saying on the show with you and Aria the other day when I brought this idea up, having never read about the dead internet theory, was you can tell that they're made by the government because they're such bad memes. They suck. They're not funny.
So
and
you're saying
some
there's
girl that was a dropout in high school and is a single mom is like, yep, I posted this because I am smarter than people.
So you're saying that there's a phenomena on the internet of viral, unfunny memes?
Yes.
Like, see, I don't encounter them.
Yeah, they're terrible, but normally we attribute that to the left can't meme. So maybe what's really going on is there is no left. It's all just a
robots?
bunch of bots.
We're going to continue here. If you want to comment on the dead internet theory, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. I mean, I buy the idea that corporations and governments could absolutely be seeding a bunch of BS into the internet. That makes total sense to me. Whether or not they've taken over, I don't know about that. And that just, I guess, that would be a hard one to prove. But there's more coming up. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power. But there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. We're talking about the dead internet theory. We're going to continue with that. Of course, you can bring up whatever you want. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Don't forget, you can join us online at freetalklive.com, where we've got a real website. You can go there at social.freetalklive.com. And we do have fake people signing up on social.freetalklive.com. But if they put anything in their profile that's all about, like, visit my fake website. We're going to sell you an escort, or there's a lot of escort advertising that tries to get on our social media. And then there's other ones that are, we're the tech team for Cash App, or we're the call us for your tech support. If anybody puts a URL like that in their profile, they're done for. So spammers are not allowed, but otherwise your opinions are welcome. If you're a real live person and you want to post over at social.freetalklive.com, head on over there. If you're not going to last on these centralized sites like Twitter.
Are we kicking off actual hookers?
No, they're not real.
Oh, they're not real hookers?
No,
okay, because hookers are one of the cornerstones of capitalism.
Yeah, you can tell who the spammers are because they always put a link to whatever it is they're spamming in their profile, and it's so easy to tell what.
Click here for sexy time.
Yeah, that kind of. So social.freetalklive.com. It is not big tech. It's our server. We run the thing, and that means that we don't really care what you're talking about. So head on over there. It's social.freetalklive.com. It's a Mastodon-based site, which means it's open source and it's federated, so you can connect with other people on Mastodon on thousands of Mastodon servers all around the planet, or other bots, in theory, on Mastodon. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. We're going to continue, Bonnie, with your story in just a moment. But we do have Sarah. She's on the line. She knows nothing about dead internet theory because she's never used the internet. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Oh, I have used the internet.
Really?
Well, I mean, I do once in a while. And
how do you get online?
I go to the computer at the UNIM, or they have.
I thought you were afraid. I thought you had explained to us before that you were afraid to use the public computers.
Well, I don't use them, but I have used them. I can use them if I wanted to.
Good for you. I'm really glad to hear that, Sarah. I mean, that makes me warm in the heart to understand that you've actually tried the internet before and you've looked things up. So kudos.
Well, anyway, my friend looked up the geranium oil and lemon oil. So both of those oils in combination put into the diffuser, if you inhale it, it's supposed to help fight against the coronavirus.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you've called in with some really questionable medical advice before, and I'd just like to point out that, there's a lot of alternative theories out there, and a lot of people swear by them.
Drinking pee, for instance.
There are people who believe that urine is a panacea.
Oh, drinking your first pee of the day. I'm so sorry.
Oh, so one pee is better than another.
Your first pee of the day only.
The darker one, and it's grosser.
Ew.
So there are people out there that literally swear by that. We met a guy like that, actually, at one of the Anarchapulcos who swore he just finished drinking his own urine in the bathroom right before he came on the air with us, which was kind of gross. But, he swore that it helped him with all of the things that ailed him. Have you ever tried that one, Sarah?
No, but this information was on one of the websites. It was brought off of the Google, so I don't know who put it on. I mean, I don't know what their background
Well, that's
was.
the other thing. You always got to question what you find on the internet because there's information about everything out there. So you said you found out that certain essential oils, when inhaled, can supposedly help with coronavirus. And there may be other people that say that, no, that's just a bunch of BS, and these oil companies want to sell you a milliliter of oil for $50.
I'm sure it can help your immune system to have those things burning in your house or diffusing in your house, because it's just lemon oil, for example, is just like the skin's oil that comes out, highly concentrated. And
right. But this
is that something you really want to get in your lungs, though?
Lemon.
That's what I was going to say. I just don't know if you should lean over it and breathe it in. But I will say, Sarah, to actually agree with you for once, I once felt like I was getting a UTI, so TMI, sorry, radio people.
Urinary tract infection?
Yes, and I told my aunt I'm going to schedule a doctor's appointment. I think I have a UTI, and I didn't know she's all into these
essential
oils, and she just went and got a little huge... those pills that you can make yourself, capsule thing, and filled it with lemon oil and told me just to drink water the rest of the day. And with what was happening, I could tell it was coming on, just went away.
Well, straight lemon oil is going to be an absolute mega shot of vitamin C.
Yeah, I bet. So, and it's super concentrated. It's not like juice, it's not lemon juice. So I could believe it, Sarah, but I just wouldn't think that you should just stand over and breathe it.
Well, you know what? Especially, I believe that tea tree oil, because it has antibacterial, antifungal, antibacterial, it kills germs. And if you inhale it in the diffuser, it will kill the virus inside your nostril cavity.
Well, you know what? I think, Sarah, if you believe that it will, it may very well do that.
That's true.
There's a lot when it comes to belief, when it comes to getting well out there. I mean, there's the placebo effect is very, very strong. It's very well studied, and that is a very, very important thing. So whatever it is you decide to do, make sure you believe in it. Thanks for the call.
There also was some. What was the stuff? It came in an orange box, and it came with like 2 Q-tips and bubble wrappers that were blister packs that were like soaked in some kind of slimy stuff. And if you took them, if you had a cold coming on and you wiped the inside of your nasal
Zicam.
Wow.
Yeah,
never heard of it.
No word of a lie, that stuff works great.
It stops the cold or shortens the length
on the spot. It's basically, and nowadays when I start getting a cold, last week included, I take some bacterial hand gel and I clean my hands, and I always wipe some upside my nose because it does the same thing, and my cold goes away way faster.
Amazing. Well, in like India and places like that, they believe that like common everyday hygiene includes rinsing out your nasal cavities, and part of that is because if a virus gets into your nasal mucous membranes, it has to like slowly go through it until you like swallow it and get it into your body, so you could actually rinse it out.
And that helps.
So,
and I have experimented myself, as I've had pneumonia a whole bunch of times, and I have found that when you have infected lungs, if you're coughing stuff up, spit it out. Your infection won't last as long. Get it out, because most people, like them, when they cough it up, they swallow it.
Yeah, don't do that.
Well, it goes into your stomach and it's still in your system.
There's a reason you're coughing it up. It's because you're not supposed to have it inside you.
Yeah, most people don't want to get up and spit it out.
Yeah, if you're feeling
spit
awful
that
laying in
stuff
bed.
out.
But
what else do we need to know about dead internet theory, Bonnie? Is there more to the story that you wanted to share?
There's a little more. It says, in an internet forum, about the paranormal, dead internet theory is discussed as a possible explanation for why threads about UFOs seem to be hijacked by bots so often. I could see that. They want to take over the narrative. The theory's spread hasn't been entirely organic. Illuminati Pirate has posted a link to his manifesto in several Reddit forums, including Joe Rogan's, in which in the Joe Rogan comments, users argue sarcastically about who among them is a bot. I'm absolutely, quote, I'm absolutely...
How many of them are bots arguing with bots, though?
Oh my God, it really could be. It says, quote, I'm absolutely the type of loser who would get swindled into living among bots and never realize it. That's sad. And they said, they keep saying, seems like something a bot would post to anything someone replies. That particular conversation continued down the bleakest path imaginable to the point of this comment, quote, if I was real, I'm pretty sure I'd be out there living each day to the fullest and experiencing everything I possibly could with every given moment of the relatively infinitesimal amount of time I'll exist for, instead of posting on the internet about this nonsense. So they're implying that maybe Illuminati Pirate's a bot. So it's just getting
the person
very
who
meta.
came up with the theory?
Yes. Anyway, dead internet theory is pretty far out there, but unlike the internet's many other conspiracy theorists who are boring or really gullible or motivated by odd politics, the dead internet people kind of have a point. In the New York story that Illuminati Pirate invokes, the writer Max Reeds plays with the paranoia. Quote, everything that once seemed definitely and unquestionably real now seems slightly fake, he writes, but he makes a solid argument. He notes that a majority of web traffic probably comes from bots, and that YouTube, for a time, had such high bot traffic that some employees feared, quote, the inversion, the point when its systems would start to see bots as authentic and humans as inauthentic.
I guess the bot traffic would be designed to pump up people's view counts, right? Like they hire the Indians to put some bots on their account and
lots of thumbs up,
pump up their thumbs up, pump up their views, pump up their follows, that kind of thing. Must be what that's about. So yeah, interesting theory. If you want to weigh in on it, of course, phones are open here every single night on Free Talk Live. We will return tomorrow, and you can join us online in the meantime over at freetalklive.com, where we promise we're real people. See you tomorrow night. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
There are lots of ways to